Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Talking TV with my mum, the weekly... We interrupt this usual scheduled podcast to bring you something else. Welcome to Talking Crisis with my mum. That's right, folks. The crisis is here, and we're going to be discussing it in this special edition of our usual podcast. I'm going to quickly just go through the usual stuff. So if you enjoy this, please hit that thumbs up button and leave us a like. That would be greatly appreciated. And leave your comments down below because we really want to hear from you on this one. Hopefully you've been watching it. And if you haven't and you're just listening to this and basing your reactions on what we have to say, again, leave your comments down below. Also, subscribe to the channel. If you're new here, or if you aren't new, but you just haven't made that commitment, please consider doing so. Please subscribe. We would greatly appreciate you joining the ever-growing ranks of this Kingdom of Geeks. That would be great. Check out the description box too. And in there, you will find not the usual timestamps because we're not going to be talking about this in parts. We're going to talk about it in one whole conversation. So there won't be the need for timestamps. You'll also find the links down there for my Twitter. You'll find the link for my merch shop, should you feel that you'd like to buy something to represent your allegiance to the Kingdom of Geeks. There's also a couple of donation mediums that if you would like to show your appreciation for what we do, help support the channel, give a gift in time for Christmas, whatever it is, check them out and consider doing something. You're not obligated to do so, though, in any way, shape or form. And there's also a link there for Green Man Gaming. So if you want to buy yourself any digital games, check that out. And if you use my link, then I will get a commission based on anything that you buy. Won't cost you any extra money. It gets paid to me by the company. So you'll just be paying the normal price for games and I'll also benefit from it. But like I said, you don't have to press any of those links or do anything with them. But if you did, that would be amazing. There's no comments to go through this week because we didn't really get a lot of comments, unfortunately. And there's not really any news because we are focusing entirely on Crisis. There we go. I'm now going to introduce my co-host. So, hello there, Mum. Are you there?
Hello, Geek-Dom. Yes, I'm here.
Good. I was slightly worried that you might have been wiped out of existence.
Yeah, I was too. I was worried, but I'm here at the moment. Whether I'll be here next year, I don't know.
Yeah, it all depends. It all depends on the fallout from this crisis.
Definitely, I'm pumped up about it though.
Oh my God, me too. I have been so eager for us to record this. So exciting. The biggest, most ambitious television event that I can think of. I don't think there's ever been quite anything to the scale that they're doing with this Arrowverse crossover.
No,
it's insane. The other interesting thing is that this is our final podcast of this year of 2019.
Yes, it is. Indeed.
So what a way to go out. We're going out with a bang.
With a bang.
Yeah, quite literally. We're going out with a bang. So it couldn't have come at a better time to be our final podcast of the year on such a big deal, on such a big thing to talk about. And it's going to leave lots of, can't wait until next year and stuff. It's like, don't want to wish your life away, but at the same time, want those weeks to go quickly so that we can get stuck back into it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else do I have to say about stuff? Oh, yeah, just a few quick things. I just want to say I'm thankful. I just want to say a big thank you to everybody that has been involved in my journey on YouTube up until this point. I've just celebrated my first year, my first birthday as being a YouTuber. So that's really exciting. And it's been an interesting year. It's been lots of, mostly highs, a few lows, a few learning curves and a few knocks and things of stuff that I just need to learn to deal with a bit better and move forward as a content creator. But it's generally been a really, really good year. I've made lots of cool new friends. I've got lots of people supporting me and enjoying what I'm doing. I feel that I've been growing and changing and evolving and getting better with what I'm doing. And hopefully that's going to continue into 2020 and going into my second year. It's just going to get bigger and better from there.
Yep. Exciting times.
And big thank you to all of you that have been a part of that. And thank you as well for helping me reach my milestone that I was hoping to reach in time for my birthday, which was I was really close and I wanted to try and see if I could get at least to 300 subscribers by the time I hit the 1 year mark. And I did that and I exceeded it.
Yeah.
So I went
Well
over
done.
300. So yeah, thank you. So thank you very much for everybody that has been a part of making that happen. And hopefully those numbers will continue to grow and there'll be people here that are enjoying and engaging with the podcast, with the videos I make, and anything else that may come from the channel in the future. So thank you very much to everybody for that. And yeah, I just had to use this opportunity to say that publicly.
Yeah, good idea.
That's all of the preamble out of the way. Are you ready to get stuck in?
I'll let you start.
So what we're going to do, although this crisis, this event is split up into parts and each one of those parts corresponds to each particular program, we're not going to do the usual thing where we go, right, now we're going to talk about this show. Now we're going to talk about this show. I'm going to tell you straight off the bat. So the 3 parts are part 1, Supergirl, part 2, Batwoman, part 3, The Flash. When we come back in the new year, part 4 will be Legends of Tomorrow and part 5 will be Arrow. But we are going to just talk through this in its entirety. So just so you're aware of how this is all going to go down from the get-go. After all this build-up, we kicked things off, and it started out with the voiceover from the monitor. And this is the first one of the little fact drops that I'm going to put in here. The dialogue that he spoke, where he talked about the origins of the multiverse, how it came into being, and how once the multiverse was shaped, and things moved on, and then we had the birth of the Age of Heroes. That was all lifted directly from the Crisis on Infinite Earths comic book. So everything that he said was word for word from the opening of the comic book, which I thought was a really, really nice touch. And it was just setting the foundation. It was sort of saying, that there was this event that caused the universe to come into existence. And then from there, it exploded into many, many different realities. And across those realities, heroes came into being, and we get shots of Supergirl, we get shots of The Flash, we get Arrow, we get the Legends, we get Batwoman, and it's showing them all just like little clips from their different series of them doing various things to sort of set the stage for these are our heroes. And then once he finishes talking, we then get a cut to Earth. But it's not our Earth. The very first one was Earth 89, wasn't it?
Oh, Earth 89, that's right, yeah.
So here's okay, so we're going to go through the little facts and the little Easter eggs as well. Earth 89. So there's a man sat on a bench. The man has a newspaper, and the newspaper on the front of the cover of the newspaper says Batman defeats the Joker. And then the skies go red, and he looks up and he looks around and he says, I hope you're out there, big guy, or I hope you're seeing this, big guy. And then you see the Batman symbol in the sky. So that Earth 89 is the Earth of the 1989 original Batman movie. And that man was a reporter in that movie. So it's the same actor who played a reporter that was on the case of what was going on with this man dressed as a bat that was stalking Gotham City, and he was trying to get the big scoop on who or what is the Batman and stuff like that. So that was a nice little connection there. So that was really, really cool. So that was a cool way to start that off. Then we jumped from there very briefly to Earth 9, and we see the Titans.
Yes.
From the DC Universe series, and it's Robin and Hawk, I believe. And it's a very brief shot, and it's just them looking at something off screen, and then you just see this red wave, the reality wave, just washes over them, and they're gone, and that's it. So Earth 9 has disappeared. So we've been introduced to the fact that Earth 9, the DC Universe Titans world, is part of this multiverse, but it's now gone.
Yeah.
Then we get a jump to very, very briefly to Earth X, and we see the Ray, who we were introduced to in last year's crossover, played by Russell Tovey, British actor, flying through the sky, and the wave is like chasing after him, and then it washes over him, and he's gone. So already, straight off the bat, 3 Earths gone already. Then it cuts to Earth 66. And this was my favorite one. So Earth 66, and it's modern day. It's not in the past, it's modern day, but everything has got a slight retro feel to it. The cars, the clothing. So even though it's modern, it's still also got that old school feel. And we see a man walking down the street, walking a dog. And that man is an older man, and he's got an oversized red jumper on with a distinct red, black, yellow kind of color scheme to it. And he stops, and the skies go red, and he turns and looks up, and the camera centers on him, and he says, "Holy crimson skies of death." It's Burt Ward. It's the original Robin from the 1960s Batman.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it was just like so good. So then it's quite clear then what they're doing. Some of it I can't quite work out, and there's been tenuous explanations for why they're given the number they are, but a lot of them seem to be relevant to the thing. So the original Batman series came out in 1966.
Yeah.
So that's why that's Earth 66. The Batman movie with Michael Keaton in came out in 89. So that's why that was Earth 89. So it's clever that they've just used the year or something that's relevant to that thing as their designation for that Earth.
Yeah.
So then after we have all of that, then we get... Does it then go straight to Earth 38?
That's when it went into Earth 38.
So we
had a guy chanting about the end of the world, wasn't it?
And not just any guy. It was Will Wheaton from Star Trek: The Next Generation, and some other people obviously know him from being in The Big Bang Theory every so often. Will Wheaton is a doomsday man stood on the street with the end of the world is nigh type thing, and he's chanting about the world ending, and the skies are starting to change color, and he's like, "Oh, it's all the end of the world is coming, not even Supergirl can save us." And then you go, "Oh yes, Earth 38, this is Supergirl's Earth." And then there's a dragon, and it's quite funny. Yeah, there's always a dragon. Yeah, see the whole thing about going back to last week about the whole dragon thing, so that was quite funny. And then this dragon flying around, and it lands in front of him, and he looks terrified. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, whoom, there she is, the Girl of Steel, Supergirl herself, saves this guy. And then it's the dragon. We actually saw this dragon a couple of seasons back in Supergirl, didn't we? Where it was a little girl, and she had this power, and she was able to make this thing, and it like turned into a giant dragon. It was like an alien thing, really, or something. Do you remember that?
Was it Supergirl?
Yeah. Because she spoke to the dragon, didn't she? And she said about the little girl's name. I can't remember, was it Molly or something like that? And she like spoke to the dragon in reference to this girl. And then the dragon sort of went, and then it like shrank down and turned
to a small. That's right, because it was a little dragon, but when it got angry, it grew.
Yeah.
She could control it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I remember the dragon. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So that was, again, another cool little nod to something from the past.
Yeah.
And then what? Then what happened?
Well, then didn't we go to John? John went and told them about, because obviously he'd seen the monitor and now he knows what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells him that the thing that's tongue twisted. Right, the thing that's coming, heading for the planet, and it's heading for the planet that Lois and Superman live with their baby.
Yes, Argo City.
Yeah. And obviously Kara's mum lives there.
Mm-hmm.
That's just that they went there. He settled down, didn't he, Clark?
Yeah.
So she sent a hologram to them to warn them.
Mm-hmm.
But then the sky turned red.
Yes.
And then they decided that we found he had a little baby and called Jonathan.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
They had to save the baby, so they did exactly what had happened to him and Kara in the past, put him in a pod and sent him away because they wanted to protect him because he's the future.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, but then all their planet went, didn't it?
Yeah, because like just to go into that a little bit more for a second. So
yeah,
we learn about the fact that obviously because Superman is on Argo City and because it's out of the range of our sun, he doesn't have his powers. So none of the Kryptonians have their powers. So he can't just fly out of there. He can't just fly outside the city and push the whole thing away from this oncoming wave that's like approaching them. He's just like a normal person, really. And so they're like, well, what are we going to do? And then the message comes through because Kara's like, we have to warn them of what's happening. So they managed to break through because Argo City is protected by like a special force field, but Brainy finds a way to boost the signal so they can get through. And she basically is telling them what's going on, but then the message cuts off. And it's like, oh no. And then obviously, like you said, the skies turn red and they're like, there's nothing we can do. We've got like a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
So her mum, Supergirl's mum, takes them to the pod chamber. There's only one pod. We're going to save the baby. Like you said, like they did with Superman and with Supergirl. It shoots off. And then just as it flies off, you then see the wave come and it just wipes everything out.
Yeah. It's like,
and that's it.
No.
And that's it. Argo City is gone.
Yeah. And then we were on Oliver's Earth, Arrow's Earth.
Yeah.
And we had the Harbinger there and Lila and Ollie.
It was the bit from the last episode where they were on
last week saying that crisis has begun. But that was that was how they were like incorporated into that. And then
jumps from there
Barry's world
to same world, but it goes to Central
and he had
City.
his visit for him to time for you to help. Crisis has started.
Yeah, because obviously the skies have already turned red and something's going on. It's having an effect on the city, and he's racing around, obviously trying to stop things and help people and stuff. And then Cisco's on the comms and he's like saying, we're trying to figure out what's going on, what's happening. And then Lila appears again, Harbinger appears, and she tells, because he's like, Lila? Because he looks really surprised to see her, because he's like, Lila, what are you doing? Why are you in that costume and everything? And she's like, I am the Harbinger now. And she says that she's working for the Monitor. And she says, Barry Allen, it's time. Crisis has begun. I've come to collect you.
Yeah.
And then she sort of flashes him out. She flashes the Flash out of there.
Yeah. And the Batwoman one was funny because she was fighting her baddies in
Gotham City, yeah.
And very close to getting to what she needed. And then she was whisked away, wasn't she?
Well, no, before she was, everything got stopped, didn't it? It got like frozen or something. She was just about to get some information out of the rabbit, and then Lila appeared and she punched her.
Yeah.
Because she's like, I'm trying to do something right now. And she's like, I'm sorry. And she's like, but this is more important. All of the multiverse needs your help. And she's like, I'm a little busy doing something else. And she's like, no, I'm afraid you must come with me. And then she just whisks her away.
It was funny.
Then we cut to Star City again. And this time it's Sarah and Ray from the Legends.
Yeah, the Legends
are in a bar, which is like having a quiz night.
That was good.
And they're sat drinking and they're doing this quiz, and it's like they're going through the answers and they're sure that they're going to win. They're like, yeah, we're going to win this and all this lot. And it comes down to the final answer, which is to do with the Janis Joplin song.
Yeah.
And they get the answer wrong. And then Ray then reluctantly reveals the reason they got the answer wrong was because last season on Legends, they ended up in Woodstock. And there was a bit
that
to
didn't
do
go
with
well,
Janis
did it?
No. And there was a bit to do with Janis Joplin. And because he got involved with her, he kind of changed history.
Yes.
And so she wrote a different song.
Yeah.
So Sarah was basing it off the real world, like what the last ever Janis Joplin song was. But because Ray changed the timeline, that song is no longer her last song.
No.
And so as a result, they lost the quiz.
Yeah. Oh, that was so funny.
And then Lila appeared in the bar.
Yeah, she got there.
And they were the compare's like, oh my, I'm getting out of here, and panicking. And they're like, what are you? And then again, she's like, Lila, what are you doing? And she's like, I like the costume and stuff. And she's like, you two have to come with me. She's like, it's really important. And it's like, oh, okay. And then she whisks them away. And then we cut back to Earth 38 to the DEO, where all of the like Supergirl heroes are all gathered together. And then there's a big flash and Lila appears and they all train their guns on her because they're like, who are you? What are you doing here? Because obviously they've never met her before.
No.
And they're like, what are you doing here and stuff? And then you get all these other flashes of light behind her. And then there's Oliver, there's Mia, there's Batwoman. You know, they're all like stood there. There's Sarah, there's Ray. And then Supergirl obviously recognizes some of the others. And she's like, wait, hold on, stand down sort of thing. And they calm everything down. Everybody lowers their guns and stuff. And then Lila explains what's going on. I like the fact as well, like at the beginning when they were showing the Supergirl world, when Jean was telling them about the Monitor and the Crisis, and they like, was it Supergirl sort of said, isn't that a Flash and Arrow problem?
Yeah.
or something. Like they
Yeah.
made almost like a reference to, isn't that something that's on the other shows? Like not our show.
Yeah.
And this is, I'll say this now in case we forget to mention it going forward, but there were a couple of points over these 3 episodes where they threw in a line about the crossover. Oh, it's his first crossover. Or like Sarah saying about the other legends, I told them they wouldn't have to be involved in another crossover
Yeah,
again
I
and
noticed
stuff
that
like
as well.
that.
Yeah.
I love that. I love the like nod, the self-referencing about the fact that this is a crossover. That was actually, that was very comic booky
In
and
case
very
you don't
funny.
know this is a crossover.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, good. Wasn't that the bit also that she then also brought Superman
And Lois Lane.
and Lois Lane.
Yeah.
And then she's going, "Where's my mum?"
Yeah. And then Lila was like, unfortunately, I could only take these 2 because they're needed, you know, sort of thing, which was a little bit harsh. It was like, you know, nobody else is necessary. So I only saved the 2 that were, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then they were like, you know, it was at the last second she appeared and whisked them away. And then they explained about what had happened with Jonathan, that they put him in a pod, and that now they're there. They need to figure out where he is.
Yeah.
So
basically, their mission was to stop the antimatter wave and find the baby.
Brainy's like, I'm going to try and track him. Oh, and they also had a really good bit with Batwoman, because Batwoman's new to all this and doesn't really know who half these people are. And so you have this like introduction of her, and then she takes her mask off and she's like, well, you could just call me Kate. It's kind of like, well, I don't need to keep my identity secret, sort of thing.
We're
it's
all
like,
superheroes anyway.
Yeah, so that was quite funny. And then the next thing they go into, they're like in a boardroom, and Lila is explaining to them exactly what's going on. And she says that there's this wave of antimatter that's sweeping across the whole of existence, and it's just destroying every universe in its path. So we've already seen some already. And then Oliver chimes in and says, I'm aware of this, you know, like that Earth 2 was wiped out while I was there. And the rest of them are all like, what sort of thing, you know? So it adds even more gravity. I'm not saying that they wouldn't believe Lila, but it's almost like Oliver sort of testifying that he's seen it with his own eyes. They all
exactly. Someone saying, I know it's gone.
Yeah.
And
then they explain, unfortunately, Earth 38 is next. And they're like, this world is a tipping point world. So we need to do our best to try and defend this world and try and keep the wave back, because this world is really important, you know, that and so we need to work to try and to figure out what's going on. That's when
they
you
mentioned the quantum towers, didn't they?
Yeah, just as that erupts from the ground, this thing, there's an eruption, they all go run into the window, and this weird structure comes out of the ground and up into the air, and they're like, what the hell is that? And they say about it. And then it's then the timely arrival of the Monitor with Flash and the Legends, that he sort of explains. He said, it is a quantum tower. And then he says about, like, at the beginning of reality, these were seeded across key worlds in the multiverse, so that if there was ever a need for these things, they would be there as like a last line of defense for those worlds. So it's like, okay, that's what this thing is. And that, again, very quickly just explains why this thing is there in the first place.
That was funny, that bit, wasn't it? Because obviously the Legends arrived, and when Ray realized that she was Batwoman, he was going, could do something with your suit. He want to upgrade her suit.
And she grabs his hand and goes, if you want to keep that arm attached, I would keep it to yourself. And he's like, yeah, okay, sorry. Because he's so nerdy, it's so funny.
There was a few nerdy bits with him. It's hilarious.
Yes.
So they worked out, they were looking, they realized the baby had gone to Earth, was it 16?
No, Earth 46, which is, they then get a nice little plot.
Earth 46, of course.
Yeah, and it's an unanswered plot thread that in the very beginning, towards the very beginning of the Legend series, they travel to a future version of Star City where it was all just like in ruins, and the Green Arrow was missing, and all of this kind of stuff. And it was like this weird post-apocalyptic version of Star City. They've now established that that wasn't actually the future. It was an alternate Earth. And so they're like, wait, what? We didn't just time jump, we dimension jumped. And there's a very brief explanation of, like, that's the nature of time travel. Sometimes you end up like almost like going down the wrong wormhole. And instead of going to another time, you go to a different universe. So it's one of those things that's tied in with time travel, which means that sometimes you might end up in a different place, and that's where they ended up. So they're like, okay, well, we've been there before, so we'll go there to help find this baby. So Brainy says he'll go, and Sarah says she'll go with Lois because Clark wants to go, but it's like, no, you can't go there. We need you for something else.
Yeah.
So those three have got their mission to go off and try and find Jonathan on Earth 46.
Yeah. John said he'd call on his alien friends.
Yeah, because they then say about like they need a contingency. So if they can't save the planet, they need a contingency because of all the people. So they're like, well, there's this planet is populated by lots of aliens that came here in ships.
Yeah.
And it's about time they did something back because they're, let's get them to help and we'll unite the world. And they reference the events of last year's Supergirl, where it was the group that were against all of the aliens and trying to send them home and stuff.
Yeah.
Humanity First or whatever they were. And it's like, well, after all that, but like, it's a show of good faith, to show that aliens aren't to be feared. They're here to help people and stuff. Plus, we've got a big ship as well, so we can try and get everybody away. But it's like, yeah, but where are you going to go? Like, the reality, it's not just the world that's being wiped out. The whole of this reality is being wiped out. So you can't just get in the ship and fly somewhere safe. It's like, well, we need to get to another reality then. We need to go to another universe. How are we going to get that many ships and that many people through a breach like that big?
Yeah.
We need some help.
So they decided they needed Lena.
And then they say Lena created the portal technology a few years back. So if she could do it again, but expand it, then maybe they would have some hope of getting people off world.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, let's do that then. So it's Alex that's tasked with the job of going to see her.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
There was also a nice little moment with Sarah and Oliver about her looking at him and saying about how proud she is of how the journey he's been on and the man he's become. And she's like, look at you now. She's like, Daddy Oliver, I never thought I'd see that. And she's like, it suits you and stuff. And he's like, thank you, very humbly, sort of like, thank you and stuff like that. So that was really cool.
Ollie gave me his suit.
Oh, yes. There was a side bit, wasn't there, where he took her to one side and he had this case and she was like, I can't. And he said, you've earned it. And he's like, no matter what happens, he said, I know what my fate is, but there should always be a Green Arrow. So again, you go, this is again tying into the spin-off show they're making. Yeah. So it was this handing of the torch thing of like, you will now become the Green Arrow. So it was like, that was really, really cool little moment.
We also had the little moment with Oliver and Barry when he started talking to him and telling him about Flash was going to die in this crisis, and he got really annoyed, didn't he?
And then he went, no, this is not how it's meant to be.
On the monitor, didn't he? As if
I need to speak to you right now.
Yeah. It's like, I'm the one that's supposed to die in this crisis. Why has he got to die?
Yeah.
He wasn't very happy about that, was he?
No. And he has words with the monitor. And the monitor basically says, yeah, that deal we made, that was last year. That was for last year's event. So that was, you traded your life to save them to last year. This is a whole completely different ball game. This is not the same thing. So that deal was for that. But your death is a fixed point in time. It's something that has been foreseen and will happen irregardless of anything to do with the Flash and to do with Supergirl. So Oliver was like, you keep changing the rules. You keep not telling us everything. And he's really cross about that because it's like, why aren't you straight up with us, Yeah. But then he refuses to sort of say any more about it. And it's like, this is coming and we just have to deal with it. There was another little thing.
Was that the bit where also the bit there when the tower, something was happening with the tower. So Supergirl and Superman had to go to the rescue.
No, that's not until
save that tower.
No, that's a bit further on that happens. I know what you're talking about, but no, that doesn't happen just yet. You get a bit with Supergirl and Superman where Superman stood on the balcony and she goes to talk to him because he's like quite sad about everything. He's like obviously sad about losing all their people, but also the fact that he couldn't save everybody and he couldn't save her mother and things like that. And she's like, look, you did what you could. You were in a no-win situation.
Yeah.
And she's like, we now need to concentrate on, saving your baby and hope for the future and saving everybody else and stopping this.
The bit we had was when Sarah and Brainy had gone to Star City, hadn't they? And Oliver from that Earth appeared and started fighting Sarah.
Yes, and it was the one-armed Oliver Queen, the like broken down Oliver Queen from that world.
Yeah.
And then she's like, it's me, and then he's like, Sarah? And then he's very like doesn't understand what's going on. And then it's like, oh, that's good, because poor old Brainy gets like hit by a ensnare and arrow. I don't know what you'd call it. Ties him up anyway, and he falls to the ground. And then obviously her and Oliver fight, but then she stops him. And then he's like really hazy of like, what's going on? Why are you here? And then it's like, then he obviously goes on to talk about how she died. And he clearly doesn't remember anything from when they were there before. And so she's like, yeah, sort of like, we've covered all this already, but okay. And she's like, I did, like, but not where I come from. And what do you mean where you come from? I'm from another Earth. And he's like, what? And then there's all this like, I don't understand what's going on sort of thing. Before we get into a bit more of that, though, the other thing that happened prior to that, I think, was that you had the whole bit with Alex and Lena where Alex turned up at Elcor and Lena was very surprised to see her. And she was like, have you come to arrest me? Have you come to this, that, and the other? And referencing all the things that happened in the last episode of Supergirl. And she's like, no. And she's like, we know, basically it's like, don't try and make out. Is it because she was saying it wasn't me, it was Eve Teschmacher. And she's like, look, we know the truth, Lena, but this isn't about that. This is about something else. And she explains what's going on, and she explains she needs her help. And then she apologizes to her and says she's really sorry for everything. And she's like, it wasn't just Kara. We were all in on it. All of us knew the truth and we all kept it from you. We all lied to you. And I understand you being betrayed, and I'm really sorry. And I probably would feel the same if I was in your position. And she's like, but this is something else. This is something bigger. And then she's like, says about it would be hubris of me to not think about we're talking about saving everything. Yeah. So she's like, of course I'm going to do it, because I'm not a villain. I'm not a bad guy. So yes, I will help you, but understand this. We are not friends. We will never be friends again. This is not us becoming friends again. This is me doing what's right. So it's like, oh, okay. That's very interesting. You also had the bit with the tower. Like you said, the heroes went to the tower because they're like, right, the rest of us need to defend this tower because the anti-monitor is going to be sending his forces to try and destroy this tower, because if this tower gets destroyed, it's the last line of defense for this planet. So you guys need to go there, and you need to prevent any of his forces from doing any damage to it. So the sort of the ranged fighters, I suppose, Batwoman, Mia, and no, not Supergirl, Green Arrow, Oliver, head inside. Superman and Supergirl take to the skies.
Yeah. And
then who was the other person? Because there were 6 of them. So that's 3, 4, 5. Who was the 6th? Was it Ray?
Yes, Ray.
Yeah, and obviously Ray's, because he can fly as well with his suit. So they're all dealing with the outside, the others are dealing with the inside, and then all these things come.
Yeah.
Like thousands of them, these weird ghostly creatures.
Yeah, that's what they were like. They're spirits, weren't they? Almost?
Yeah. And they again,
were attacking them.
They are something, again, lifted straight from the comic. These things were wraiths that are controlled. The yeah, and they're controlled by the anti-monitor. So they're just coming and they're just shooting them and doing all this kind of stuff. And oh no, Ray was inside with them. That's right, because there was a bit where she was using her batarang and they were like, it's no good. They keep coming. And he's like, and then she's like, hey, fancy doing that upgrade for me now?
Oh, that's right. That was the bit. Yeah.
And so then Ray takes the batarang off her and does something. And then when he gives it her back, she throws it. And it creates all this weird, like, purple, like, kind of explosion things, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it, like, blows loads of stuff up and it kills loads of them. And then it comes back to her and she's like, that's not bad, And he's like, thank you, And he's all, like, feeling really proud of himself.
Oh, Batwoman liked what I did.
Yeah. Then Oliver nearly gets killed because he gets knocked over. He loses his bow. And then they're all flying towards him. But then luckily Mia is like, Dad! And so she jumps into action and shoots and saves him.
Yeah.
And then he's able to get his bow back. And then Superman, Supergirl, and the Flash all arrive to help them because it's like they're just getting overwhelmed, and so they turn up in the nick of time, like to sort of help them out to keep fighting.
Well, we had the evacuation being planned, and John Brainiac gave him the ship.
Yeah.
Their ship. The big ship for the evacuation, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, ooh.
Yeah, that's right. And it was Dreamer. Dreamer was coordinating that, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Along with Kelly, Jimmy's sister.
Jimmy's sister, yeah.
Who's now got his shield.
Oh, that was so cool, wasn't it? When she was like, she goes, Jimmy, give it me.
Yeah, Jimmy left it for me. So she got like the shield out, and they were like trying to help everybody and again fight off some of these demon things, these wraith things. And the big ship appeared, and it like was like the voice, John's voice over the radio thing saying, everybody come to this place and we'll get beamed up onto the ship kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was all going on. So that was cool. Then we went obviously to Earth 2046. You had Sarah and Oliver talking, and then Lois is kind of like about the baby. It's like, oh, over that way. So she comes back and she like thanks him. So thank you for saving my baby. And he's kind of like, yeah, that's all right, sort of thing, like, okay. And then he's like, then goes into really like emotional, apologetic mode about everything that's happened. And she's like, don't do that. And she's like, it's you getting me to come on this ship was the best thing on the Queen's Gambit on the boat. Was the best thing that ever happened. And she said it might not have been for Sarah in this reality, but for me it was, because she said it set off a whole chain of events that completely changed my life, to the point where she effectively is like, I'm like a space pirate now, going around in a time ship, doing all this stuff. And I become a hero because of you.
Yeah.
And it was all these things, again, keying into how Oliver Queen, regardless of what reality he's from, is the linchpin upon which everything is built. And they all owe something to him. And
she said that he was a good man on every Earth.
Yeah, and he looked like he was going to burst into tears, didn't he?
Yeah, so no matter which reality it was, Arrow was always the good man.
Which is not technically true, because on Earth X, he was a Nazi dictator. But, apart from that, every other Earth. But I suppose she wasn't going to say that. On every Earth, apart from one.
Apart from that one.
But yeah, that was a nice little moment, again, between two characters that started the whole thing off, because obviously Sarah was in the very first episode of Arrow as well.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
To have them have that little moment between their characters was lovely. So and then that was their time to go. So they got the baby, they got together, they said goodbye to him, and then they pieced out of there.
Yeah.
Then we go back to the DEO, and you've got Lena and Alex trying to work out how they're going to do this evacuation thing. And Alex has an idea, didn't she? She surprised Lena because she came up with this theory thing. And she's like, what is it? I've actually got it up because I got some notes for this one because of how much there is. They're using an inverse variable to help calculate the differential. And Lena's like, yes, that would work. That's Galleon's theory or something like that. And she's really impressed that she knows that. And she's like, yeah, that would great. And they were both smiling and laughing, going, yeah, that would work. And she's redoing all the calculations. Then she kind of afterwards, when they realize they've done it, then it's like, this doesn't change anything.
No.
Like,
we're good as a team, but they're like, no, we still don't like each other.
We're still not friends. Yeah, that was great that we did that. And it's great that we're working together and stuff and we're solving this problem, but we're not friends. Then we go back to the tower, and it all is starting to go a bit wrong. And the tower's starting to, they're not being able to keep them out of breaching all of it. And that's when Superman and Supergirl fly up in the air, and they use their X-ray vision, because they're like, because the wave is basically it's blocking out the sun. So the power that's being generated to the tower, because they're solar panels.
Like solar panels, yeah, that's right.
So they're like, if we can recharge it with our powers, then that could help. So they fly up and they're both shooting their X-ray vision out of their eyes into the panels to try and like give it that extra bit of kick to let it last a bit longer. Because I think by this point, they've now realized this is a losing battle, but the best we can do is try and hold it off as long as we possibly can.
And it was really weird, wasn't it? Did you get a bit worried? Because obviously they were doing it at the same time. And then obviously all of a sudden the Superman
fell out of the sky.
Power stopped. He just fell. And then thought, oh my God. And then she kept going as long as she could. And then she did, just like, oh, but they got caught. Who caught them?
Barry.
Barry, that's it. The flash zoomed in and grabbed him. Like, oh.
And then you get the big fight scene, and then there's all the heroes just getting absolutely overwhelmed and surrounded by all of these demons. And it's like, it's too late. There's too many of them. The tower's failing. And then you see the evacuation starting to happen. So they got the tech working, and this big portal opens in the sky, and all the ships are flying through it. And then it keeps cutting backwards and forwards between these things. And they're all fighting. And then the monitor shows up, and he's like, we're out of time. This world is doomed. The battle is lost. We must retreat for other battles. And so then he just starts zipping people out of there. He just starts going, zoom, and they just start disappearing. And Oliver's the last one left.
Yeah.
And Oliver's like, I'm not going anywhere. And he's like, how many people are left? And the monitor's like, there are still far too many souls left on this earth. They won't all be saved. And Oliver's like, I'm not going. Don't you dare take me anywhere. And he's like, I'm going to keep fighting until my last breath, sort of thing.
He even attacks the monitor, didn't he?
Yeah, because he's just like, he shot him, didn't he? So he couldn't use his ability to like warp him away.
Yeah.
And he's like, I refuse. I'm not going out like this. We are trying to save as many people as we possibly can. And then he keeps fighting, and then he runs out of arrows.
He got overcome in the end, didn't he?
And then you see that moment where he realizes, like, oh crap, I've got no arrows left. And then he just looks up, drops his bow, balls his fists up, and just goes, rah, and just runs straight towards all of these creatures.
Yeah.
And then it cuts from there back to Earth 1.
Yep.
Star City.
And a badly injured Ollie.
Yeah. All the heroes are there, and Oliver is there on a table, and he looks in really bad shape.
And they say the universe is gone, but they save some people.
And they managed to save, was it 3.75 billion or something like that?
I remember the exact billions,
And the monitor did a calculation and basically said that because of Oliver's noble sacrifice, because he fought until the very last moment, due to that, another billion people were saved. They got another billion off that out of that universe before it was completely obliterated. And Kara's like really upset because it's like, that's it. Like everything I know is gone.
Yeah.
It's all gone. And then not only that, the double header is like, and now Oliver is dying. And they're basically like, there's nothing that can be done for him. And then we got a big shock because then Nash Wells turned up.
Yeah.
Except he wasn't Nash Wells, was he?
No, pariah.
Yes, he said that he, again, I wrote this down. I made a note of this because I thought some of these bits of wording are probably important. So he put, because they were all like, Nash, what are you doing here and stuff? And he said, now I'm simply a man serving his penance. Yeah. I freed the anti-monitor from his confinement only to become a pariah, sentenced to bear witness to his actions. So basically all the stuff we saw with him, with the underground bunker, with the symbols, it was not the monitor. It was the alternate, like the other side of the monitor. It was the anti-monitor.
Yeah, that was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was as we suspected. His actions are what kicked all of this off.
Yeah.
Because we said that last week, didn't we? We said, I reckon what he did is what triggered it all. And it is, He got the wrong person. He thought it was the monitor. It wasn't the monitor. He was tricked. He was brought into all of this thinking it was one thing, and then he actually freed the anti-monitor, and that also started off this wave of disintegration that's destroying everything. And now he's been transformed, and his job is basically to be there and watch as all these terrible things unfold.
Yeah.
And it's like Oliver Queen's journey is at an end. This is it.
Yeah.
And you're like going, what? This can't be.
Yeah. So
the thing is,
it was weird, wasn't it? Because even the monitor said, didn't he? He said, this isn't how he dies in his scenario.
Yeah, he said obviously Oliver was supposed to die during the crisis, but not now. And he's like, things have changed. Things are different. And then so Oliver's lying there and he's like, last few breaths and stuff. And he manages to speak to and poor old Barry is just looking really sad. And Kara's in tears. And they're also, and obviously it's Sarah. And then, no, sorry, not Sarah. Mia goes to him.
Yeah.
And she's like in floods of tears. And he pulls her into him and tells her to promise her that she'll find her mother, that she'll find Felicity. And that he's like really proud of her and everything. And he looks at all of them and like Barry and stuff like that. And then he died.
No. And because obviously, because the monitor had said that, Wells said that everything we know there is and ever was is now doomed.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they killed him already. It's like beginning of the crisis. He's supposed to die, but he's died.
I couldn't believe that. I was like,
what happened?
They have set this up for such a long time that this was going to be the end of the Green Arrow. That we knew that, but in my mind, I was thinking episode 3, episode 4, you know, maybe even the final part is when he'll die. You know, for them to do it at the very end of the first part blew me away.
I know.
And I was just like, I did not see that coming. I did not see them pulling that out of their hat and actually being ballsy enough to kill off the guy that basically started all of this.
Yeah.
In the very first episode.
I know. It's like, oh my days.
That was absolute insanity.
It was. But anyway.
So yes.
So then obviously he obviously died, and we had a bit where they were reminiscing, weren't they?
Yeah, they were having a drink. It was Sarah, Batwoman, and Kara, wasn't it? Supergirl.
Kara, yeah. And Kara was saying, or Supergirl was saying, she wanted to find a way to reverse it. There's got to be a way. Can't believe, we can't do anything about this.
Yeah.
Harbinger appeared as well then,
and
the monitor said they needed a ship.
Yeah,
because the threat of this Earth is going to go. They said about the Wave Rider, and Sarah said, "I don't want to disrupt them." She said, "Don't disrupt."
That's when she made the comment. That's when she said, "I made a promise to the rest of the Legends that they wouldn't have to be a part of any other crossover."
Yeah, that's it.
So it's like that's why just her and Ray are there, and not the rest of them.
Yeah, and he said, "Well, we need Ray's lab that's on the Wave Rider, but there are many Wave Riders out there."
Yeah, so
okay, we're gonna find a Wave Rider.
We're gonna go and get another one. Yeah. So it's like, okay, so we're going to go and find a different Wave Rider from a different Earth.
So they went to Earth 74.
Yes. And they found a very broken down, very derelict looking Wave Rider.
Yeah. Which had a snart Gideon.
Yes. Hello. I'm Leonard. And all this. Yeah. And then you're like, oh my God. They might not have had him physically in the episode, but they got him.
They had him.
And it was actually his voice. He actually did the voice. Oh God, what's the actor's name again? Wentworth Miller.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they got Wentworth Miller to voice the AI of this reality's Wave Rider. And
guess who else was there?
You had this voice talking to them and saying about them being there and stuff like that. And they're going, this place is a mess, and there's beer bottles everywhere and things like that. And then it's Rory.
Yay! And it was hilarious. She's trying to recruit him, and she's giving him all these options, going through everything.
Yep.
And she mentioned beer was mentioned, and he goes, "You got me a beer."
You had me a beer. And he's like, how much beer?
I thought, oh, excellent. Yeah, glad he's in it.
Yeah. So that was really good. And then we had a great moment because this followed on not long after that. So they got back. So they, instead of showing, let's show them travel back and stuff, they've cut out all the necessary fluff from this crossover.
Yeah.
So the next thing, they're all back and all the heroes are on this new other version of the Wave Rider. And the baby's crying. So the monitor's trying to talk to them and tell them about what he's discovered.
Like, baby keeps interrupting.
And he keeps and it's such a comical moment because he's like going, I have more news for you all. Although this has happened, I have become aware of baby crying. Stop. Look at sorry. Pass the baby down the line. Baby goes from Clark to Lois, and then from Lois to Kara, then from Kara to Sarah. Then from Sarah to Batwoman, who goes, no, sorry, don't do babies. Passes out, and then they look, and it's like Mick's the only other, and he's at the end, and he's sort of like, and the baby's cried at every single person. He holds the baby starts smiling and gurgling, and and he's like going, hey there, grinning at the baby, and then the monitor still looks like as if to say, come on. And he's like, so he walks off with the baby, doesn't he?
Yeah, Rory the nanny.
That was so funny.
It was a good, nice little light-hearted moment, wasn't it, considering it's so serious?
Yes.
So I was glad they've had a few like that in the whole thing. So it's really good.
So then
Yeah,
what
then
did
he
the
started-
Monitor explain to them about?
He was saying about the paragons, wasn't it?
Which he had discovered in the Book of Destiny.
Book
And
of
they went,
Destiny.
but that was destroyed.
Mm.
And he says, I went back into the time stream and I was able to retrieve the book in order to download it into the Wave Rider's memory banks. So
Yeah.
that is now accessible. So we've now got the Book of Destiny back. And that's when Kara's thinking, if you can go back into the time stream to retrieve stuff,
Yeah. After her thinking it, she's thinking there's a way of doing it.
then we could use the book to undo what happened and bring back my reality.
Yeah.
So that's where her mind's going.
He also pointed out that as the anti-monitor got stronger, he'll get weaker as well, didn't he?
And up until this point, we've still got no real indication of like what the relationship is between these two characters. But
no,
him saying that, yeah, it's like, well, the fact he's called the anti-monitor, you go, well, he's the yang to the yin of the monitor. He's the other side of him, the dark side, whatever. And it's like you said, he explains the stronger he gets, the weaker I'll get. So it's like, oh, there's an interesting kind of dynamic between the two.
Yeah. So then you tell me all the paragons then.
So that's when he reveals to them that he became aware of another thing that could help win this crisis, which is about the 7 paragons of light. And he says that the paragons are the heroes that are needed to save the multiverse. And he says, we know of 4 of them. And he says the first one is the Paragon of Hope. And he said, that is you, Kara Zor-El. So Supergirl is the Paragon of Hope.
Yeah.
Sarah Lance, you are the Paragon of Destiny. He then goes on to say the next is a Kryptonian. And they look at Clark for a minute. And then he says, who has lost everything and is broken beyond repair. And you're thinking, okay, that's not Clark.
No.
But we don't know this Kryptonian's name. And then Clark's like, I'll find this Kryptonian.
Yeah.
The 4th, again, unidentified, but is only known as the Bat of the Future.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. And so they look at Batwoman and stuff, and it's like, oh, I don't know what could that be referencing and all this kind of stuff. And they're like, well, this is all very vague. Is that all it said? And he's like, this is what it said. It gave the names outright of 2, and the rest are just like descriptions. Yeah. So we need to track down the 3rd and the 4th, and we also need to work out a way to work out who the others are. So it's then again splitting everybody up.
Before that, he referenced the Felicity thing. Second book.
The help of Felicity Smoke. Yes, that's when he revealed who some of the others were, because he said, with the help of Felicity Smoke and like technology and this, that, and the other, we've been able to decipher some of the other symbol things and stuff and find out who some of the other paragons are. And one was revealed to be John.
Yes.
So that was why John had to go through the tests that he went through, because it's like you've got a bigger destiny, so you have got to become a paragon. He was the paragon of, oh god, what's his title?
I couldn't remember.
I can't remember now what their titles were, what they were, the paragons of what. I remember there being, one of them, the Paragon of Humanity, was a character that we haven't been introduced yet. Somebody called Ryan Cho.
Yeah, Dr. Ryan Cho.
Yeah. So he's the Paragon of Humanity. The Martian Manhunter is the Paragon of, it might have been like Strength or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's 2. And then the 3rd was, the Paragon of Love, which is the Flash.
Yeah.
So we've got those 3 plus Kara and Sarah. My mind went for a minute. So Kara and Sarah plus them 3 plus 2 unspecifieds.
So we got the Bat person, Kryptonite, the lost Kryptonian, and the Dr. Cho. They're the 3 they had to find.
Yeah. So okay, so we're going to split everybody up and send them off on missions to find these people. So we only covered 2 of them in this episode, but so then
when they said about the fact that it was the Bat person, obviously Batman, and the comment was made, who wants to meet Batman?
Yeah, it was Batwoman said that, because it was like,
Ray was really happy.
You're going to have to travel to, because they sort of said you're going to have to go and travel and find your cousin. and all this stuff about Batman. And she's like, who wants to come meet Batman? No, yeah, because they said about Bruce Wayne. The monitor said, Bruce Wayne has dedicated his life to this, that, and the other. And then she was like, who wants to come and meet Batman? And Ray went, wait, Bruce Wayne is Batman?
Oh, that's bless him.
It was great.
So funny.
And so they made the decision that basically the best two to go for that one would be Kara and Batwoman. So it's them two are going to go off to find Batman. But then it's like the Batman they're going to find is not the cousin she knows of from this world.
No.
So it's like you are going to have to travel to another Earth to find, and it was Earth 99.
Yeah.
To find the Batman of that era.
Yeah. So then we had the bit with Lex, didn't we?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Then Lex Luthor showed up.
Yeah. And she, but he won't let her, Kara wanted to kill him, but he wouldn't let him because he said he was useful. But she doesn't trust the Monitor now because of that.
Yeah, she was very questioning about the motives and stuff of like Lex Luthor is evil. He's a bad guy. And he's like, yes, but he has a part to play in all this. He is necessary.
She couldn't fathom, like, what use could he be? He's just bad. You know, he's unlike us. He's a bad person. So she wasn't very happy, thinking, oh, maybe this Monitor doesn't know what he's doing after all.
But then we kind of got confirmation of that because Lex Luthor stole the Book of Destiny.
Yeah.
So yeah, he basically he was wandering around the ship and he found the book and he took the book and Supergirl found him and he was like, oh, well, you know, I've decided, you know, I'm using my newfound returned from the deadness and my freedom and I'm going to go and do what I always wanted to do. And that's basically kill Superman in every reality.
Yep.
So he just then blinks out of existence. He goes and he's off across the multiverse.
But then we had a brief bit with Harbinger, Lila. And she was getting a bit confused, wasn't she? And she could hear voices like, stop him before he finds the book. And like, what's happening to her?
Yeah.
And then I thought, oh no, he's gone to kill Superman.
Yeah. So there was something weird, definitely something weird going on with Lila because she kept, like you said, she kept getting all these weird headaches and voices in her head. And that's, again, something that will come up as we go on. So you then had the mission. So you were like, okay, so look, we need to find this other Kryptonian. So Clark and Lois decide that they're going to go off. So they leave the baby with Mick and they decide they're going to go off and try and track down the mystery Kryptonian. And they travel to a few places, but they're too late every step of the way. That's when they realize they're like, somebody's wiping out Supermen from all the different worlds. Yeah. And when they arrive on the latest world, which is Earth 75, they are like, where are we going to find him here? And we have to get to him before Lex. And then there's a big video screen and it's them two. Weirdly enough, it's actually them two up on the screen. And it says Lex Luthor kills the Man of Steel. And it's her over it's actually, again, that's a comic book cover. That picture they use with the cape as a flag and her and Superman in rubble and stuff like that is actually the cover of a comic book. So it's the death of Superman, which is really, really cool that they use that image. But yeah, they're like, we're too late. He's been here. So we have to go somewhere else. We have to get to another Earth. So then you get another Earth. And it's Smallville.
Yeah.
Actual Smallville, as in the TV show Smallville.
Yep.
And you see a man on a farm chopping woods. And it's Tom Welling. It's the guy that the last time we saw him was in Lucifer.
Yep.
And he's reprised his role as Clark Kent. And it's like, oh my God. And it's the actual Smallville farm and stuff like that. And they get there and he's like, hello there. And they're like, hi. Talking to him. And he's like, it's all very vague to begin with. And then they're basically like, we know Clark Kent is Superman. He sort of looks like, and it's like, because I'm also Superman. And it's like, you know, like, right, we're from another Earth and the multiverse is in trouble. And there's all of this stuff going on. And before they can finish telling him anymore, they get like zapped out of there.
Yeah.
And then Lex Luthor is there. And he's like, hello, old friend. And he's like, my greatest enemy, my nemesis. And Superman turns around and goes, who are you?
That was so funny, that whole bit.
Because the other bit when they said Lex Luthor's coming here and he's trying to kill off all the different Supermen, and he goes, the president. Because obviously on that world, the world of Smallville, Lex Luthor is the president of the United States. And he's like, the president's coming to kill me? And then he turns around, and it's just the way he looks at him and goes, who are you? He's like, I'm your greatest nemesis. I'm Lex Luthor. And he looks at him like, no, you're not. And then they did the thing, which again, I did wonder whether they were going to cover at any point about how, like, in some realities, the people are the same, but in others, they're completely different actors. And he's on about how the multiverse has a way of altering things to suit the reality it's in. So basically, like, the reason he looks different to the Lex Luthor that lives on this Earth is just down to the multiverse needing him to appear different.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so they found a way of, like, covering themselves there. Like, why don't they all look the same? And he's basically, I'm there to kill you. And then, and he was really, like, just blasé, wasn't he? He was like, okay, he's just like, I live on this farm and this, that, and the other. And he's like going, but I'm here to kill you. I'm here. I'm wiping out all Supermen. And he's like, oh, but I'm not that guy anymore. And he's like, but you're this, that, and the other. And he's like, and then he gets out the kryptonite. He
pulled out the kryptonite, yeah.
And what happened?
He picked it up.
Yep.
And threw it away.
Yep. And it's like,
Lex is like, ah!
How did you do that? It's kryptonite. It's supposed to make you weak. And he's like, yeah, I don't have superpowers anymore. And you're like, what? And he's like, yeah, I gave them up. And he's like, I realized that, I didn't need to be that guy. And I had other priorities. And Lex steps forward and goes, but you were a god. You had everything. You had all this power. You could fly. Why would you give all of that up? He seemed like really angry then of like, why would you throw all this stuff away? And as he was doing that, he walked towards him and he stepped on something. And then he looked down and it was a little toy digger. And he was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. And then he's like, nope. And he's like, basically, life changed, priorities changed, and he's like, I'm a dad now. That's what I'm a Superman to my children, but I'm not Superman anymore. And again, that's a comic book reference because there is a thing in one of the stories they told, like it was an alternate reality thing where he did want to settle down and he used, I think it was yellow kryptonite or gold kryptonite. And what that does is it basically just strips the powers away.
Okay.
And it means that because they don't have the powers anymore, they're also not susceptible to any other forms of kryptonite. So clearly that's what happened, that he used that and it removed all his powers. But yeah, he's just living like a normal man. But then Lex goes to hit him and he like grabs his hand and punches Lex. And it's like, yeah, he might not have superpowers anymore, but he's still tough.
Yeah, still strong. And then he disappeared then, didn't he?
Yeah, he was just like, oh, for God's sake, this is pointless. And he's like, you're pathetic. I'm not wasting my time on you. I've got other Supermen to kill. I'm getting out of here. And he just like warps out. And then you hear a voice. And then he's just looking and stuff like that. And then this woman shows up. And again, and it's Lois Lane from Smallville.
Yeah.
And the same actress. And she's like, who are you talking to? Are you talking to the cows again? And he's like, oh, there was a man here. And there were some other people here. And they were from another reality. And they told me that all of reality was ending. And they needed my help. And she's like, oh. And then he said something. What did he say? He made some comment. And she's like, oh, you finally made a joke, Smallville. Like that. And then he's like, oh. And then he's like, what are the girls up to? And she's like, oh, they want to show you something. And he's like, okay. And then he's like, this seems like a job for us. And he puts his arm around her and they walk off. And then that was it.
That was quite sweet.
And it was like, that's the end. That's the little finale ever, final thing of Smallville is that he lived out his days as just a normal man. So that was quite nice. That was quite a nice. That
was really good as well, and amusing as well.
Yeah,
which is really cool. And also the other thing that was exciting that was going on in the background was Barry and Iris talking about the Lazarus Pit to bring Oliver back.
Yes, that's right. Because Barry could not. He couldn't square the circle. He couldn't no, Oliver can't be dead. He's the best of all of us.
Yeah.
He's the one that brought us all together in the first place. This isn't right. We can't do this without Oliver. And it's like, well. What about the Lazarus Pit? This thing.
Yeah, and Mia wanted to do it, didn't she? She's like, yeah, we need to do this. Sarah was not happy at all because obviously we all know what happens to people that come out of the Lazarus Pit.
And she knows because she's been through it herself.
Yeah, but Mia thinks she knows best.
Yeah.
It's like, this is what we're going to do. So basically they went off. They said that they had to go and find someone to help them do that.
And Sarah knew just the person.
Yeah.
And that person was?
Constantine!
Yes!
Or Constantine.
Yes, well.
And
Anyway,
he had a spell that he could do.
with 2 cigarettes.
Yeah.
Do you really have to have your smoke? Sorry to interrupt. What was it Barry said? I'm really sorry to interrupt your smoke break right now, but can we do it? And he's like, mate, this is the spell and all this kind of stuff.
And the spell was to find a Earth with a functioning Lazarus pit, wasn't it? So he got the fags out
and he created it was like a map of the multiverse.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's really hard to see because all this wave is like making everything hazy. And he's like, we need to hone in a bit. And he does something else, chants something else, and it like zooms in. And then he's like, it's like the proverbial needle in the haystack. And then he's like, there it is, found it. And it's Earth 18.
Yeah. And Sarah made him, if he's going to do it at all, the only way she'd let him do it is if he promised to bring back his soul.
Yeah. Because she's like, I know what happens and you know what about. So you've got to make me a promise that once we get him back, resurrect him, you've got to get his soul back. And he's like, I'll do me best, love. I'll do me best. And all this stuff. And he's like, it's going to be tricky. So that's that. They've got their own little mission now. They're going to try and bring Oliver back from the dead. So it's like, okay, that's cool.
So then we had Kate and Kara had gone to Batman's mansion.
Yeah, so this was Earth 99.
Earth 99 at Gotham.
Very overgrown Wayne Manor.
This was great. Obviously, they knocked on the door. It was just a bit where they knocked on the door and then no one answered it. And so Kara kicked it in.
No, someone did answer
it. Oh,
first.
no. The guy came to the door and he said, I had no business. He's not there. You've got no business being here.
And when she said, I'm yeah.
It was the geeky guy, Luke, is it? From her,
that's in the Batwoman show.
And he had a 6-pack and everything, and she even made a reference to it, didn't they?
Kara was like, sort of like, she was like, wow. And she was like, what did she say? Enemy? And she went, no, friend, actually. And she went, oh, not bad. Nice 6-pack. And she went, nope. Like, we're not having this conversation.
No. Next thing, he shut the door on them, didn't he?
Yeah. So then
said,
Kara...
no, you can't come in. And so she goes, I'll try. And then she kicked the door in and they got in, obviously. And then we could hear all this weird noise, couldn't we? Clanking
and mechanical sort of sounds and stuff. He's not going to want to see you and all this art. And then you hear a voice. And anybody that has ever watched the Batman animated series or anything would instantly recognize this voice. And this voice is sort of saying about, no, it's okay. Don't worry, Luke. And then he's like, I'll speak to these people. And then he's like, why are you seeking me? And then he comes around the corner and it's Kevin Conroy as Bruce Wayne. And he's in like how would you describe it?
Robotic suit?
What's it called? It's in an exoskeleton.
Yeah.
There's like a skeleton on the outside because basically he's got like his back was broken. So the only way he can walk is because he's got this like robotic suit thing on the outside of him that allows him to move around. And he's old and he's bitter and he's not very welcoming. But he recognized Kate. And it was like, he knew who she was because obviously on that world, Kate looks the same, obviously. So even though other people look different, she looks the same. So he knew who she was. And then you get like Kara goes off with Luke and Bruce and Kate go off into another room to talk. And he reveals about the fact that like it's weird talking to her because he's never had a conversation with the ghost before. And she's like, what do you mean? And he's like, Kate Kane died 5 years ago. And that's when she basically is like, I'm not from around here, and it's like, this is not my world. You're not my Bruce, you are my Bruce, but you're not my Bruce. And then explains what he's there for. And that like basically you are the paragon of courage. And I've come here to recruit you. And then you find out, he's not a very nice guy.
No.
He doesn't care. He doesn't care about anything.
No.
And she shouldn't care either.
Joke him being courage.
Yep.
He said, look at me. Yes, of course I have courage. Yeah, and he's horrible, isn't he?
Everything is rotten. The world is rotten. Reality's rotten. People are rotten. Why do you want to save anybody? What's the point? If it's coming, let it come. It's probably the best thing. And she's like, what happened to you? And he's like, I became a realist. And he's like, I realized things. And then he's like, oh, yeah, because he made some little references as well. Like he said, you can't be Clayface because he's a puddle of mud now and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then you start getting the reveal that there's something not quite right about this Batman.
No.
And then you get Kara.
Yeah, talking to Luke and seeing all his trophies.
And there's this cabinet, and it has a playing card with the Joker on. There's a question mark cane. There's a snow globe. There's a plant. So it's clearly Poison Ivy, Mr. Freeze, the Riddler, and the Joker. And yeah, it's a trophy cabinet, which is weird. And then she looks down the trophy cabinet a bit more, and there's a pair of glasses.
Yeah.
That are cracked and still kind of got smeared, like almost like encrusted blood on them and stuff. And then she has a terrible realization whose glasses they are. And then the next thing, she comes charging into the room as Supergirl, because up until this point, she was in her Kara like outfit, wasn't she? She wasn't Supergirl. So she comes in as Supergirl, and he's like, "Oh, Kryptonian," and all this kind of stuff. And she's like, "Kate, this man is not who you think he is. He's not a paragon of anything. He's a murderer." And she said about the trophy cabinet and that. And he basically then goes on, I got to the point where I just gave up. I was just like, well, why, Batman doesn't kill, but now he does. And it's like, this is the best way to, what's the point of fighting them, locking them up, they'll get out, fight them again, lock them up, fight them, lock them up, continue a cycle. It's like, I just kill them. And then he just got the taste for it. He got the taste for killing. And then he got worse and worse and became more and more twisted to the point where he saw Superman as a threat. And then, he had the kryptonite, and he was just like saying about gods and like the beings coming here from another world. And this was cool as well, because this was, again, it wasn't word for word, but it was paraphrasing the speech that Ben Affleck has in the Batman versus Superman movie. So then the implication in a way, I think here is that he's kind of what Ben Affleck's Batman would have become if he had carried on down his dark path in that movie. So it's kind of it's sort of a reference, an Easter egg to that film of like, this is a possible future where Ben Affleck's Batman just went dark.
Yeah.
And, he sees Superman as a threat, and he basically paraphrases the same speech about the beings from another world and like all their powers and this, that, and the other. And we're just mortal men and stuff like that. So something like that has to be taken off the board. It can't be left unchecked, because what happens the day when that godlike being decides to turn his eyes on us? So it's like, I have to get in there first. So, and then it's revealed obviously that during the fight with Superman, his back got broken. So that's how he's in that suit, but he killed Superman. And Kate was just absolutely disgusted. And then he's like, well, now there's another Kryptonian here. I need to deal with you too. And he like presses a thing on his suit, and it opens up, and there's this kryptonite like laser thing, isn't there?
Yeah. It's like, oh my God. And she got really annoyed, didn't she? So she couldn't let him do that to Kara. So she started fighting with him, didn't she?
Yeah. And then she pushed him, because where they were, there was some like gadgety stuff. And cool as well, there was a Batman suit that was in the room. So we got the look at the suit, but it was all covered in cobwebs and stuff. So he clearly not worn it for a long time. Yeah. And then she knocked him backwards. And because of his suit being made of what it is, and because of this thing she knocked him into, it electrocuted him.
I know. She killed him.
Yep. And then he called her in just before he died, didn't he? And he was like, Kate. And she leaned forward and he went, there is no hope. And then he died. And it's like, what the hell? That is not what I was expecting from our very first proper Batman stuff. Was for him to be an evil Batman.
Real evil, terrible, wasn't it?
So that was just shocking, and wow, yeah. So then they're like, great, so we're down a paragon.
Yes. So then we also had the bit, Iris and Lois and Clark, when they were zapped away from Smallville, they ended up going to the Daily Planet.
And again, this is Earth 96, and this is the Daily Planet and the Earth of the 1996 movie, which was in itself a continuation from the original Christopher Reeves films of Superman Returns. And they go to the Daily Planet, and they bump into Clark Kent.
Ray Clark Kent.
Ray, yes, Brandon Routh on double duty, because he's reprised his role as Superman from the 96 film.
Yep.
And he is Superman, and he's like bumbling around. Oh, I'm really sorry. Oh, and he has this little moment with Lois, and they're sort of looking at each other like, oh, no, you can't do this. And then like Clark's like, hi, sort of thing. Like, and they're like, oh, hey, I like your glasses. Thanks. I like yours too, and stuff. And they're like about talking to Clark. And he's like, oh, yeah, of course. I'd have plenty of time to talk. Here's my card. Speak to my assistant. And they're like, they basically had to come straight out and say about Lex Luthor, didn't they? And then he sort of went, come into my office.
Well, that was when they saw the thing on the wall, wasn't it? And it said about the planet attack.
Yeah, that was in the office. Yeah.
And that it was Lex Luthor that had done it.
And that it had killed everybody that he loved. So Jimmy, Perry White, Lois Lane, like all the people that are connected to Superman on this Earth were all dead.
Yeah.
And that's when you go, that's why he's a broken and hopeless Kryptonian.
Yeah.
Because he's lost everything.
Yeah.
You know, he lost everything in his life.
Lex just wiped it all out.
And
then he appeared.
And just he was obviously telling them all that, and he's kind of like, you know, he's really sorry to hear all this stuff about the multiverse and that, but in some ways he's kind of like, he's given up hope. He's like, well, I've got nothing left to live for, kind of thing. And then Lex showed up and he used the book.
Yes.
And he said about Superman versus Superman. And then Clark rips out of becomes Superman in his modernized outfit, which again is a two reference thing. So it's a reference, the way he looks with the slightly graying hair and the slightly altered look of his outfit is a reference to, there was a comic book series they did called Kingdom Come, which was set in the future where Superman is like an old man.
Yeah.
So that was a reference to that. Plus, obviously, it's also a slight retooling of the suit that he wore in the Superman movie all those years ago. So it's a nice, again, like nice little Easter eggs and stuff there. And then they got down to it, didn't they? And we had really cool special effects. And I'll tell you something, like sidebar here, just for a moment, based on everything we saw in the first part and what we saw in the second part, and even more so what we saw in the third part, they had so much budget for this.
I know, it was great.
The special effects and everything was just so good. And that whole fight with them two flying up above Metropolis and fighting, and on top of the Daily Planet like globe, and you know the bit where I love that bit. You know the bit when they were like, he's like, I've got to stop you, Clark, and he's like, you're not going to stop me, and he's like, you don't belong here, I'm going to kill you, and our Clark is like kind of go, no, we've got to be on the same page, and he's like, they're flying towards each other with their fists out, and you know what's going to happen, that they're going to bash into each other, and when they do, it creates a shockwave. And like all the buildings vibrate and all the glass break. It looked it
was really
awesome.
Good. Yeah.
It was so good.
I just sit there watching it going, whoa, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that.
And so that's going on. And obviously Lex is relishing all of this, isn't he?
Yes.
They're giggling away to himself. And they're like, we need to do something, you know, Iris and Lois.
Yeah.
What happened? Lois clonked him on the head.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So she snuck up behind him and clonked him on the head and knocked him out.
And broke the thing.
And they got the book. Well, no, they couldn't. No, they didn't break the spell to begin with, because the spell was obviously, you know,
in the book.
I say spell. It's weird how it works, this Book of Destiny.
It's a thought process thing,
it's to do with thoughts and things like that, yeah. So it's not technically a magical book, but it is kind of mystical in some way.
Yeah.
And they're like, he did this because he was thinking bad thoughts and projecting them onto this Earth's Clark. So we need to think of him, and we need to think of positive stuff and hopeful stuff in order to try and bring him back and break it. And then them two come crashing into the building where they are back in the office, and he goes to shoot. He's like, looks over at Lois, and it's like, this is the thing you care about. I'll kill her. And he goes to shoot his eye beams at Lois, and then our Superman gets in the way, and he's like absorbing it into his chest. And I love as well, you do notice the difference in the eye beams. So the eye beams that the Arrowverse Superman and Supergirl have, it basically all their eyes turn red and like the beams are like full. Whereas his was like, his eyes were still, you could still see his eyes, but the beams were coming out of his pupils, and they were like thin lines, because again, that's how they did it in the movie.
That's what, exactly.
They used the same effects that they used in the film. So it's like, that's really cool. Again, little attention to detail.
Made it authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're having that, and they're still trying to get the book to work. And then eventually Lois realized it was like to do with words of like love and encouragement and hope and a reminder of his Lois and who he loved and what the kind of man that he was and the man that she fell in love with and why she fell in love with him. And then that broke the spell and that made him come to.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm ever so sorry. And he sort of looked at the other class and he was like, I'm sorry. And he's like, no, it's fine. It's okay. I understand. And he's like, I wasn't myself. And he's like, funnily enough. And again, this was a great little reference to which Superman movie was it? Was it number 3? Superman 3, I think it was, where Christopher Reeve splits into 2 and there's a good Superman and a bad Superman.
Oh, yes.
And he referenced that because he was like, the funniest thing about this is it's not actually the first time that I fought myself. And I was like, oh, what a lovely reference to the Christopher Reeve era of Superman.
Yeah, that was a good movie.
So again, it was a lovely little Easter egg that they put in there that's again referencing something else within the world of DC.
Yeah.
It was just, I love that. I was just like, oh my God, that was a reference to the like original series of Superman films. That was great. And then, then they were like, yep, you're coming with us. And he's like, okay, what do we do? Let's go. That's like, okay, at least they were successful.
Yeah.
Then we went back to the others going to Earth 18, didn't we?
Yeah. Dakota.
Yeah, and what was Earth 18? What was it? What was the place, the timeline, the time frame?
Well, West.
Yeah, it was like Western era. So it's obviously Earth 18 is obviously like 18th century or something.
Oh yeah, and it was Dakota. Yeah, I get you. And they were looking for the Lazarus Pit, weren't they?
Mm-hmm.
And they came across a random cowboy. Now, is this the guy that was in Legends?
Jonah Hex.
That she gives this. That's when she gave him the scar.
Yeah. But again, it's not the same one that they met.
Because when this random cowboy came out, and I went, "Hang on, I recognise him."
Yeah,
from somewhere.
yeah. So
and
that's
then
why
he said,
cool.
"No,
like...
you couldn't go past," so they had to fight him basically.
Yeah.
And obviously, Sarah grabbed and she scarred his face and said, "What do you say? This is so you got your scar?" Or
because basically it was like the fact that the scar was missing, and that's what it's like. It's not the same Jonah Hex. It's not the one that you encountered before that you became friends with. So then it's like, well, now you kind of match the other one because you've got a scar as well now, sort of thing.
Yeah. Because it was her and Mia that left. The boys had gone off to do something. Constantine and Barry had gone to get something, hadn't they?
No, they put Oliver in the Lazarus Pit. So they were at the Lazarus Pit while the other two were dealing with Jonah to try and keep him away from the Lazarus Pit. And
Then obviously they put him in the Lazarus Pit. They did the thing.
And it didn't work. And it was for ages. They were just going, it's not working. It's not working. Give it time. And then all of a sudden, and out he comes and he jumps straight out and then immediately starts trying to fight everybody.
Kill them all.
Yeah. And then Sarah tranquilized him, didn't she?
Yeah, they had it ready, didn't they? So they had something to knock him out. Not knock him out, but sort of, it was something in the trunk thing, wasn't it? Because he didn't knock him out totally, did they?
No, it sort of made him woozy, and then he
a bit woozy,
collapsed and that. And then they were like, right, now we need to put his soul back. And
how to find his soul.
And Constantine was struggling, and he was kind of like, I can't do it. It's not working for some reason. I don't know what it is, whether it's all this multiversal destruction or whatever. He's like, it's not working. He's like, we need to come up with another plan.
Yep. So we left them with that for the time, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
So then we went back to the ship. So we had 2 Rays.
Yeah, I love that. And the conversation between them. When Ray was like, our Ray was talking to Superman and kind of going, so like asking all these, and what did he say? Something like about like, have you got a gluten intolerance as well? And like Superman's kind of like, not that I'm aware of. And he's like sort of saying about how handsome he is and all this kind of, it's so funny. Just
the
having
whole scenario was hilarious.
The same actor, but like as 2 characters having a conversation with himself. Oh, it's brilliant. And like you had a really funny bit, didn't you? When because they were all returning in separate moments, so they didn't all come back at the same time.
No.
So when it was when Kara and Kate showed back up again, and she saw Ray, and then she went, "Wow, Ray, look at you! You're looking so buff, like that." And then somebody leaned around and sort of went, "It's not Ray, it's Superman. It's kind of it's your cousin technically." Yeah. And then you see our Ray in the background sort of look around the side of him and go, "Hi," sort of thing. So it's so funny.
She's like all about the body this woman, she.
I know she was.
So our Ray, the Legend Ray had to build a paragon meter to find the final 3.
And then they talk about their mission to Batman's world and about how he wasn't anything good and he was a bad guy and this, that, and the other. And we failed. We didn't find anything. And Kate's like, it was pointless. It was a waste of time and this, that, and the other. And he's like, not so, Kate Kane. You did find the Paragon. And they're like, what are you talking about? And it's like, the Bat of the future is you.
Yeah.
You are the paragon of courage. And you had to go through what you went through in order to discover your destiny. So it's like, okay.
Yeah. Oh.
So that's interesting. So yeah, so then they're like, okay, so we need to get this thing working to find the other paragon. We need to, do all this other stuff. And then you get Supergirl and Batwoman have a conversation. And Kara reveals her plans. To use the book to bring her universe back.
Yeah.
And Kate's not sure about it, is she?
No. And all the while, she's got that kryptonite thing on her hand.
Well, we got that reveal, didn't we? After Kara left her, and she was watching her go, and then she looked down at her hand and opened it, and she had the kryptonite, and you're like,
"Oh no!
What? Why has she still got that?
Yeah.
Is there going to be some kind of double cross? Do you know what I mean? It's like, what is going on here?" So Supergirl heads off. You see that thing.
And then we saw Lila again, didn't we? Lila's lost the plot.
And she's like having these head pains and hearing all these voices.
And it's the anti-monitor that's calling her, isn't it? That's what I went, whoa.
And then he summoned her, didn't he?
Yeah. It's like, oh no, he's got her.
And then we saw him for the very first time. Because he came round the corner. And then you see him, and he kind of looks like the Monitor, but he's kind of like a monster version.
Yeah.
He's got like
looks almost like the Martian.
Yeah, he looked a bit Martian-like, yeah. But he didn't have the mutton chops, and he didn't have the beard, and he just had this really creepy-looking, greyish sort of face. But it's a very similar outfit, but again, like the colour scheme seems slightly inverted and things like that.
So I was thinking, oh no, he's got her now, so... She was working with the other Monitor, so what's going to happen to her?
And now he's like, now you work for me. Like, now, you're working for me now. And you're like, oh my God. So then that was our end point to part 2. Now we move in to the final part. This is the big one. I hope you've enjoyed the ride so far, folks, because this is where it really goes off. This is the cliffhanger before next year's other 2 parts. And this is the culmination of 6 seasons of The Flash. It's all come down to this. From the very first episode of The Flash, we knew we were going to get to this point eventually. And oh boy, oh my goodness. So things started out with another Earth. And we got Earth 203.
Yeah.
And this Earth, New Gotham. And we see a woman running along the rooftops and stuff. And clearly, again, the antimatter wave is affecting this Earth. And she's running and she gets on her comms and speaks to Oracle to see if she can hear her. And it is revealed that this is Huntress, who we have seen in the main Arrowverse before, but obviously a different actress, different character and things like this. But this is the Huntress and the same actress from the 90s, I think it was the late 90s, early 2000s, Birds of Prey TV show that they did that only lasted like 1 season or something. And that's who this woman is. Wow. And she's like trying to get in touch with her like team and stuff to say something's happening, what's going on? And then the comms go all crackly and then it's whoosh, and she's gone. And then we cut back from there to the team again, don't we?
Yeah. So Flash and the gang are all there.
Yeah, so we get all the rest of the Flash gang.
Cisco has come to help Ray with a Paragon detector.
Yeah. And it's great because Ray's really happy because he's like, somebody else that's on my like intellectual level that is clever with technology and stuff that can help me. And he's like, no problem, we'll work on that. And then he did the thing as well when he went, holy doppelgangers, when he saw Superman and Ray.
Yeah.
That was quite funny. And then what did they say? Is it at that moment as well they mentioned about the anti-monitor? And he was like, wait, what? Who came up with these names? And then he's like, are people not consulting me anymore? because obviously
Yeah.
he's always been the guy on the Flash that comes up with the names for the villains or the heroes or whatever. So he was a little bit put out by the fact that there's a name, and it wasn't him that named this person.
No, it was because Diggle was mad about that they couldn't find Lila, and the Monitor said she may be with the Anti-Monitor. That's where it came up.
Yes, with my dark half or whatever he said.
And he's saying, I can only save what remains, which makes Kara really mad. She walks away, didn't she? She walked out of the room.
Yep.
She's so angry.
Because it's like, yeah, you can't undo what's been done. And was it then at this point they got the count on the things to say that only 7 Earths remain?
The countdown to how many Earths we're getting.
So in the whole of the multiverse of all these like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of worlds, there's only 7 left.
Yeah. And Cisco was onto something. He had a brainwave, didn't he? So he wandered off to sort this out, and the Monitor appeared and said that he had to become Vibe again.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, he appeared to him in the corridor, didn't he? And he was like, Cisco Ramon, you may not be a paragon, but you have a very vital role to play in this crisis. And he's like, I'm just a dude now. I'm helping with this thing. And he's like, no, you must become Vibe again. He's like, I can't. I haven't got the powers. I got rid of them. And then he's like, you will become Vibe again. It is your destiny. And he like waves his hand.
And then he was.
And then he's in his Vibe outfit and he's got his powers back and everything.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, so wow.
It's like he didn't want to be it, but he had no choice. So the plan was Iris was going to find Ryan Cho because they still had to find him.
Well, they discovered they pinpointed his location, didn't they? And they said he was in Ivy Town. And Ray was like, hey, that's my old stomping grounds.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll go along, sort of thing.
Yeah, so that was the plan, for her to go there. And Vibe and Frost were going to go to the place that Nash went to.
Yeah, because they were going to try and work out if they could discover what had happened to Harbinger. And see if they could find, if she's with the Anti-Monitor, maybe we can find the Anti-Monitor. So Iris, Ray, and Ralph went off to Ivy Town to find Ryan Choi.
Yeah, and Vibe and Frost and Pariah.
Yes, that's right, Pariah, yeah.
And obviously that was when he told them how he was manipulated by him.
Yeah.
How he like gave in and thought, he was the Monitor because he was also trying to get him. And then they got to the place where all those symbols were, and he said he couldn't remember how to open the door.
Because he said, although he knows that he was Nash Wells, and although he knows certain things, there's other parts of his memory that have become hazy since he was transformed into Pariah. And then he's like, they're in there, but I can't access them. And okay, you're going to have to vibe those memories, Cisco.
That's why he had to bring him back.
Yeah.
Because he had to vibe him to get the memories to open the door.
So then he sees the memories and he sees the symbols and he sees the order in which he's pressing the symbols in order to open up that like door or whatever it is.
Yeah. We had another bit where Lex and Kara were having a chat about the book. Yeah, he said it might drive her mad using it.
Because he's used it, she's thinking, well, and then like you said, he says, but if you don't use it correctly, it could drive you mad, like Deegan, which was a reference to the guy that had the Book of Destiny last year in that Elseworlds crossover.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
So he's like, it could drive you mad, just like Deegan. And she's like, oh, I don't care, and all this. And he stood the whole time. He's like got his what was it, the Count of Monte Cristo book that he had previously and stuff. And he's just sort of like all smug, like this, that, and the other. And then wasn't that the point when Kate, because he was being all cocky and stuff, Kate turned off the force field that they had him imprisoned in and just like grabbed him and slammed him up against the wall with his arm behind his back and stuff like that. It was so funny. And it's like, this is what I was saying, like Batwoman has been great during this crossover. Yeah. And you just kind of go, why has she not been this good in her own
maybe
series?
Transfer it to her series.
I hope so, because she's been really, really good so far with all the wisecracks. Yeah. And the fact she's the newbie, but she's fitted in so well amongst all the established heroes.
Yeah.
And she just won't take any crap from anybody.
No.
So it was.
So we left them with Kara was going to try if she could.
Yeah.
Then we go to Earth 666 in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, yes. And they're walking there. What are we doing here, John? And
Constantine, Mia, and Diggle, yeah.
John's like, well, there's a guy I know. We go back away. We've got a history, shall we say. He might be able to help us. Well, he will be able to help us. And they go to this place and they knock on a door. And the best cameo so far. Who answered the door, Mum?
Lucifer!
I couldn't believe. I actually shouted out loud. I just went, "Oh my god!" I was like, "Oh," because we had this thing. We talked about this actually on the podcast a little while back.
We heard about him being in it. How are they going to bring him in it?
And about the fact that he downplayed it and said, "No, I'm not in it," and all of this kind of stuff. And it's like, really, is he fibbing? It was a fib. He's actually in the crossover.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And it was great. And it was Mia, John, and Diggle. And
he's John. They're both Johns.
Yeah. And he looked at Mia and he was kind of like, hello. And he's like, Lucifer Morningstar. And she went, Lucifer, as in like, and he's like, yes, that's right, the devil. And she's like, okay. And then he's like, tell me, what do you really desire? And then she's like, I want to save my dad. And then he's like, daddy issues. And he looks at it, he's like, Johnny, where have you been hiding this one? And all this kind of stuff. And he's like, all right, mate. And he's like, this stuff about this pre-existing relationship.
Oh, and also he said to Diggle about he reminded him of his brother.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, little Amendiel reference because John was being all that. And he's like, he's always scowling and disapproving of everything I do. So good.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, so basically he had to help them get to purgatory. That was why they'd gone to see him.
Yes, because they said he tried all the spells, but all this stuff was going. And he's like, oh, yes, end of the world, blah, blah, blah. End of existence, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, well, but I can't use my magic. And we need to get to purgatory to get this soul. I don't know if you've got an Oliver Queen on your world, but the one from ours is very important and we need to get him back. And he's like, and you are the right man to come to. And he's like, oh, well, I do owe you a favor, Johnny. So it's like, oh, really? I do hope that they expand upon this at some point in the future.
Yes.
This relationship. Because again, comics wise, anybody that knows the comics will know these guys do have a relationship because they're all part of that mystical side of the DC universe. So Lucifer and Constantine have crossed paths many times. But in terms of the shows and stuff, we've never seen any hints of any. Well, there's never been any crossover anyway, because Lucifer's always existed in its own thing.
Yes.
But the fact that there's this existing relationship between the two, it's like I really hope that there's a way they can touch on that in some way in the future.
Yeah, brilliant.
If not, it was just a nice little thing. But yeah, he has got away, and he's like, I can help you, and he hands him like a tarot card with the devil on, and he says that that's gonna basically be their way in.
That's right.
But when the picture fades, that's when you know your time's run out. And if you don't get what you need in that time, you'll be stuck there. So it's like you've got to use this card. And then once the picture runs out, if you're not out of there, you'll be stuck in purgatory.
Yeah.
And then it's like, is there anything else? And he's like, no, I thought, great. Okay. Well, it's lovely to see you again, Constantine.
That's it, Constantine.
And then he's like, it's Constantine, mate. And he's like, yes, of course it is.
And then he had some women with him, didn't he? Sort of like, got to go.
Yeah, and he went, ta-ta, and he like shut the door, and then that was the end of that. And it was like, that was so good. I loved it.
Next few minutes of my life watching that.
It was brilliant. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
And so then they were like, well, he didn't tell us what to. Diggle's like, he didn't tell us what we had to do. And then he's like, oh, didn't he, mate? And he holds the card up, and then it like starts burning.
Yeah.
And then they're in purgatory.
Yes.
And where was purgatory, Mum?
Lian Yu.
Which makes sense because, as we discussed last week, that's what it means in Chinese.
Yeah. And that was his own personal purgatory, wasn't it? So his soul's got to be there.
Yeah.
So that's what happened.
So there was that. So then we cut away from that, and we went
back to the tunnel bit with Vibe opening the door after he's got all the information off Pariah.
Yeah.
And Flash came, didn't he? He appeared.
Yep.
And in there was another Flash.
Well, yeah, I wasn't going to come out with it straight off the bat, but they went inside and there was a big structure and there was a thing. There was a thing glowing, and they were like, "What is this?" And then there was something in the middle, and there was a treadmill, and there was this blurry thing going really, really fast. And they're like, what's going on? Whatever that is powering this. And then, it was revealed that on the treadmill was the Flash. But they couldn't see it properly. So Barry used his slowing down time thing to see, like, he used his Flash powers. And it was the Flash from Earth 90.
Yes.
Who we saw last year in the Elseworlds crossover. This is not Jay Garrick, the Flash. This is not John Wesley Shipp, Barry Allen's dad, Barry Allen's mentor from Earth 2. This is the original Flash from the 1990s TV show of The Flash.
Yeah.
And John Wesley Shipp is playing this older, grizzled, veteran hero. And he's the one that's on this treadmill. And it was just like, wow. That was cool. That was very cool. Because it was when he said it, because to begin with, I was like, wait, it's Jay. And then he went, Barry?
I did. I got a bit confused. And I went, hang on, that's not him.
Yeah. And then obviously he said it was Barry. And then it's like, wait, it's Barry from Earth 90. Oh, the Barry we saw last year in the Elseworlds crossover, which we'll talk a bit more about how we got that established as well. But it was like, wow, that's awesome. So they're like, this is what's powering the device.
So basically, the treadmill was keeping there was an anti-matter cannon, and he had to keep running to keep it going. But if he stops, it will empty and destroy all the Earth. So basically, he has to do it in order to keep it going.
Yeah. So I mean, we may as well talk a bit more about that section then. In that, he revealed that after they got him off there, because Flash was like, we need to get him out of there. We need to get him out of there. And so Cisco vibed him out of the treadmill. Yeah. And he was like, you need to put me back in. And they're like, what? And he's like, you don't. And he's like, Flash, I need to go back in. And they're like, why do you need to go back in? And then everything starts going. And he's like, because he triggered it with a failsafe that if I come off that treadmill, it's going to blow up and wipe out everything in an instant. So rather than it being a gradual process, it's just suddenly everything will just blink out of existence.
So they looked to Pariah for advice and he'd gone.
Yeah. So
then that was the end of that section for the time being.
Well, it was also, I think also in that moment, that's when he explained how he'd got there. When they took him off the treadmill.
Oh, yeah.
He said that it was after last year when he got like whooshed away by the Monitor, the anti-Monitor like apprehended him and like basically kidnapped him and brought him there and put him on this perpetual treadmill and basically made him his pawn to activate. And he said about the test fire, and that was when obviously Earth 2 got destroyed in Arrow. That was the like the testing of it. So it was like that. So it's like, okay, it's all connecting together now. So and then that's when they were like, we that we need to do something, and then it cut away from there. We then got the bit with obviously Lois on the Wave Rider, and she had a conversation with the Monitor.
Yeah.
And he opened up a little bit and he explained that he once had a world and he had a family, but all his world, everything was destroyed. Now we never got an explanation for how it was destroyed, just that everything he ever loved was wiped out. And he knows that pain, and so that's why he's trying to prevent the pain that everyone else is feeling. That's why, but also why he's a little bit disconnected, because it's kind of like, I went through this myself, deal with it kind of thing in a way.
Yeah.
But she kept asking him all these questions and he was just pouring his heart out. And then he said a name and then he stopped and looked at her and he went, now I understand why you are such a good journalist, Lois Lane. Because it's like how easily she got him to talk. And then Clark showed up just like out of nowhere. And as in like
Ray Clark Kent.
Yeah, Ray Clark Kent, Superman. And she asked him about he said, I couldn't do it. I couldn't save them. And he was really despondent. And he's like, I couldn't. And then she said to him asked him about his crest. And she said, why did you go with the black? Because behind the red S, there's a black background. And then he said, because, again, I wrote this down, because Lois, even in the darkest times, hope cuts through. Hope is the light that lifts us out of the darkness. And then she looked at him as if to say, and then he went, I've got to go back. And then he got up and he like vanished out of there. Yeah. And then he went back to obviously finish whatever he was doing. And then she carried on talking. And then she looked around and she went, great, talking to myself. So then we had the Ivy
I was
Town
going
stuff.
to Ivy Town, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was pleased to see Ray because he said, because Ray was for Palmer Tech. And
oh, wasn't that a bit funny? Oh my God, it's you.
cool.
It's really you. And Ralph was kind of like, well, you know, as if like he was the one he recognized.
Because he looked at the way he looked at, he didn't know who he was talking about. And I think he thought it was him.
Yep.
And then it was Ray.
And he's like, oh, I studied your, and he's like on about the work that he did and how he used that for his own thesis. And that he's like trying to improve upon some of the stuff that Ray invented. And you're like, oh, this is really interesting. There's like meeting of the minds. Now, do you want to know a little interesting tidbit about Ryan Choi?
Go then.
2 things, actually. We've heard his name before.
Yes, that name did ring a bell.
When their daughter came into the Flash last series,
yes,
and she gave the Flash the ring that has his suit come out of it.
She
said
made
it was invented by Ryan Choi.
Oh wow!
So at some point in the future, no, I remember that. In the future, at some point, he's going to make that ring that will give the Flash that suit. So this guy's clearly very clever. Now, this is another thing. This is something I did find out from like the internet and comics knowledge and stuff like that. Ryan Choi is the Atom.
Oh, okay.
So we know Ray is the Atom.
Yeah.
But we also know, as we talked about a little while back, that Brandon Routh, is leaving the show this year or next year, like this season of Legends of Tomorrow. So it looks like maybe Ryan Choi is going to replace him and become the new Atom. So having him introduced in the crossover and having him be one of these important characters, it sets him up to be a part of this world moving forward.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting little tidbit. But when they told him why they were there, he went, no, thank you.
They were saying they were superheroes, didn't they?
Yep. And he was like, what? No, and he didn't believe them. And then he was like, oh, I guess we need a demonstration. We haven't got time for this. So Ralph stretched his arm out, grabbed a box of tissues and brought it around the front of him and went, need a tissue? And then he went, you're the elongated man. And he was like, that's right. And then he was like, oh my God. And he's like, so you were all heroes? And then he was like, I'm sorry, but I've got to go. And they're like, what do you mean? He's like, I have a wife. I have a child. If the world is ending, I need to be with them. And he basically refused them. And he said, no, I'm not helping you. I need to be with my family.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay.
Brilliant. We need him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we went then back to where Flash was.
Yes. They're basically, arguing with other Barry, with Earth 90 Barry.
Because Pariah's gone, they're not sure what they've got to do now. He's gone. Maybe he was lying to us, all this stuff. Maybe he's really working with him. And then suddenly this guy appears.
Pariah appeared, didn't he? And he then there was like a flash of like yellow light behind the back of this machine. And you're like, what's that? Someone else is here. And then somebody comes stumbling out and is like, what? Where am I? Who are you people? What am I doing here? And it was Black Lightning.
And he starts attacking them all.
And he's like, whoa, where are my family? What have you done? And all kind of stuff. And it's like, oh my God, it's Black Lightning. And he's here and he's attacking everybody.
And that's where Pariah went to get him.
Who is it that said it? Somebody, was it Cisco, called him like Lightning Boy or something? He was like, whoa, calm down, Lightning Boy. And he was like, it's Black Lightning, like that. And then the Flash talked him down, like our Flash is in Barry. And he was like, well, sorry. Hey, he was like, look, I know this is confusing and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, you've been brought here from somewhere else. And he was like, where are you from? And he's like, Freeland. And he's like, where am I? And they're like, this is Central City and all this stuff. And he's like, what happened? Where's my family? And then Pariah basically is like, they're all gone.
Yeah.
You're the only person that I was able to save from your Earth. Yeah. And he's like, what do you mean from my Earth? My Earth? What are you talking about? Like, he has no knowledge of the fact there's a multiverse, right? And he's like, what are you talking about? Who are you people? And then when they say who some of them are, he's like, what? They're like, because he's like, these are things are real. I thought they were just comic books and cartoons and stuff.
Yeah,
and like,
I thought that was Ace when he's sort of like, he was like one of us, like going, wow, you're real characters?
Yeah. And they're like, we're really sorry, but you are a hero and you're needed. Yeah. Well, what do you need me to do? And it's like, well, what can you do? What, your powers and stuff. Can you help us with this machine? And he's like, because he's got all of his high tech, like scanners and things like that. He scans the machine and he sees something, doesn't he? And he says,
and his technology has got better.
Yeah, well, yeah, because that's obviously happened during the course of the newer series. But he scans the machine and he sees something and he's like, yeah, I think I might be able to work with this. And so then he just starts shooting his lightning power like into the machine. And that's to stabilize it, isn't it?
Yeah.
To stop it from exploding. Until they can basically come up with the conclusion as to what they're going to do about it.
Basically, yeah.
And then also then during, we may as well stay with that section. So he's doing that. And so then they're trying to work out a plan. And then Barry basically comes to the conclusion that this is it.
Yeah.
And he's like, I know what needs to be done. And he's like, if I go on the treadmill. And then he says about if he can run backwards,
reverse the treadmill,
he can reverse the flow of the energy, prevent it from exploding, and stop the wave from spreading out across the remains of the multiverse. And they're like, no, you can't do this. And he's like, I have to do this. And then older Barry is trying to say, no, it's not your call. And he's like, no, it is. You don't understand. This is my call. This is my moment.
And Cisco all along was also going, no, let him do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it is my destiny. I'm supposed to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so he decided that's what he was going to do. And
then we, because obviously it was just, they were just them lot there. And then we cut back to the Ivy Town and we see Iris
try to persuade Ryan.
Yeah, she goes after him. He's in his office packing up some of his stuff and she talks to him and he's like, are you, I'm not super. And she's like, neither am I. I'm just a normal person. And he's like he's got a wife and he's got a daughter and everything that he's got to lose. And she's like, but I'm also, I've got a husband and my husband is out there every day. He's a superhero and he's doing everything to save us all and help us out. And he's currently trying to save the whole of reality from being destroyed. Yeah. And we are only humans, but we have our part to play. And our job is to be there to support them and to help them. And that's why we need you. And she's like, wouldn't it be great for your child, for your daughter, to know that her dad was the one that helped save everything? When you're holding her hand, to know it's thanks to you that everything was saved.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I need to phone my wife and let her know I'm going to be late for dinner. So you're like, yay, they did it. Iris was able to connect with him from a human level.
Yeah.
So strip away all the superheroics and the multiversal madness and the cosmic powers and everything, just a human to human conversation. And it convinced him.
And we also flashed to her, didn't he? Flashed over.
Yeah. Then we.
Or did he just
no
to tell her his?
No, that was previously.
I thought it was to tell her his plan.
It was a memory. Well, it was like clearly before she left, because they went off earlier on. They went off together, and we saw a bit of their conversation. But then it was like a memory, and it was them talking about what must be done. And he said, "You got your own mission," and she's like, "I need to be here with you." And he was like, "No, you're important too, and it's your love and your empathy and your strength which is going to make this mission succeed. You need to go to Ivy Town and you need to get Ryan Choi. It's very important." And then she's like, "But what if anything happened?" And he's like, "Whatever I do, if it's in my power, I'll always find you, Iris. I'll always come running back to you." And it was such a poignant moment. And it was such a lovely, this is their last moment thing about if she doesn't make it back before he does what he's going to do, at least they got this kind of goodbye. And they looked to the wedding ring and he was saying about how much he loved her and stuff. And it was really emotional. And then we go back to real time and we go back to Barry resolute that he is going on that treadmill.
Yeah.
By hook or by crook. And poor old Jefferson is expending the last of his energy. He's on his knees at this point, struggling. And it's like, I can't hold this much longer. And it's like, oh, you need to do something. So he's like, Cisco, you need to vibe me in that. But Cisco's like, nope, like this. And then Barry, Earth 90 Barry, steps up and he talks to him and takes him to one side. And he's like, this is my job. This is my destiny. And he's like, it's not your destiny. And he's like, the whole thing about, then they reference the thing we talked about how Flash disappears in the crisis and how Flash has to die. And he's like, but he never said which Flash.
Which Flash.
And he's like, you're a young man. He's like, my time's come and gone. This is my time. This is my job to do. Let me do this. And it was a very epic hero moment because he was like, let me do this. Let me save you all. And then he got Cisco before Barry had a chance to react to vibe him back onto the treadmill. And then, right, I will say now, I have cried a little bit during this crossover so far. I cried at the end of the first one when Oliver died, and I've had a few tears in my eyes for other moments. But this bit made me cry. And it was because it was when he said to Barry just before he went on, he went, "You've got this. Keep on running, son. Keep chasing that lightning." And it was the fact that he called him son. And it's like, I know this is not his dad. I know this is not the guy that is Henry Allen, but this is this older man that looks just like his dad telling him, you know, you're the hero's son. And I was just like, oh, and it just made me and then like his face when he was like, I've lost another person. And that immediately following the conversation that happened afterwards also was really poignant. But so Jefferson like collapses on the floor, and then he's back on the treadmill and he starts running, and it's like, we need to go. And Cisco's vibing them all out of there and going, we need to leave. We need to get out of here. And he's like, I'm not leaving him. And he's like, Barry, we have to go. And he's like, when you made me the leader, you made me the person responsible for the hard decisions. And I'm making that decision right now. We're leaving. And so he like gets Barry out of there.
All out.
And then you see you see Barry, older Barry, running, and then he starts disintegrating. And as he does, he gets a memory, and it's a clip from the original 1990s Flash show of him with his love of his life, talking about him being the hero and stuff. And it was just such a poignant ending. Great. Again, like, it was lovely because that's a series that got canned like unexpectedly. So, you know, they never got to resolve that. So by doing this, having him as part of this and having him play such a big part of all of this, it gave him his ending. So it's like, I'm sure John Wesley Shipp will show up again. I'm sure we'll see him again as another incarnation of the Flash, you know, in some way, shape or form. I don't reckon that we'll never see him again on the show.
No.
But for that character, for that version, for this person that he played originally as that character to have that ending was just such an emotional send-off. It was just like, this was just written impeccably.
Yeah.
So yeah, well done, Greg Berlanti and Mark Guggenheim and all the other people involved, because that was great.
It was brilliant, wasn't
it? So good. And so then that's done. And so he does it, and it all blows up, and then it stops everything. It stops the wave, but it already wiped out the other Earths that were remaining.
There's only Earth one that's left now.
Yeah.
So we went back to Constantine and the guys.
Yeah.
Leanne Yu, whatever it's called. And they get bumped into Ollie, and he starts attacking them all.
Yeah, because again, he's all like crazy and feral, isn't he?
And then Diggle tries to reason with him.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's got Constantine in like a chokehold.
Yeah.
And then
he's like, he's reasoning with him, and he's like, in the end, they get round to him, don't they? And he said he's going to agree, you know, he understands what they mean.
Oh, and you get that nice moment, because Diggle, that's the other thing, the little like subplot that's been going on with Diggle through these episodes is that his guilt about the fact that he wasn't there when Oliver died, after promising him, I'll be with you until the end. And he's like, I let him down. I wasn't with him. I should have been there. I wasn't there. I let him down. So he sort of says that to him, and he's like, Oliver, and he's like, John, and he like gives him a hug and stuff like that. And it's like, so, and then he sees Mia, and he's like, you came? And she's like, of course I came. And then he looks at Constantine, he's like, sort of, hello? So, you know, sorry, I strangled you, kind of thing. But yeah, and then they're like, you know, they would come to get you, we're going to bring you back. And so he turns to face them. And so we're looking at him, like looking towards them.
Yes.
And then there's
another twist.
Yes. And then again, this is another character that's familiar to DC Comics people. Is this man appears, this mustachioed man appears, and he walks up, and then he says about,
I'm Jim Corrigan.
And they look at and he's like, another one I know. And they sort of look at acknowledge each other as if to say, yeah, we know each other. Yeah. And then he says about
he's the Spectre,
who he was, and that he was a police officer, but then and then he echoes Oliver's lines, and he says, but then things changed and I had to become someone else. I had to become something else. And it's like, that's straight out of Arrow. That's what he always says. And he echoed those lines to Oliver. And then Oliver's looking at him and he's like, says that he's no longer Jim Corrigan. He is now the Spectre, and his eyes glow.
Yeah.
And he says that, Oliver, you still have a part to play in all of this. And he's like, but you can't go with them. And they're like, what are you talking about? Oh, this, that. And he's like, no, you have a different role. And then he's like, Oliver, you're the only one who can light the spark. It is your destiny. And Oliver stands there for a minute, doesn't he? And then he looks at them lot and he's like, I'm sorry, I can't come with you. And they're all like, what? And then he turns around to face Jim Corrigan, and then something happens. And then he turns around again. And what happened then?
They were gone.
And what happened to Oliver? His eyes flashed, didn't they?
His eyes went funny.
So he's become the Spectre.
I was going, what does this mean?
I can tell you a little bit. So the Spectre is a divine being. Ooh. So this is interesting. So basically the Spectre is a cosmic being that is infused with the power of God. So basically the easiest way to think of him is he's an angel.
Right.
And he has...
obviously that's his soul, isn't it? So
yeah, and he has like cosmic power, not just like superpowers. He's got like big powers, like reality changing everything powers. So this is a very interesting twist in what part Oliver Queen still may have to play in all of this before it's all said and done. Because if he's been given these almost godlike powers now, you're like, what's this? What does this mean going forward? Like, where he's still going to play a part somehow. What is his destiny? We're going to have to wait and see. But yeah, he also used that power to send them back. And they got back.
They all ended up back on the Wave Rider.
And they were like, no, couldn't save him. He chose to stay behind and stuff.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, no.
We had the Barry and Black Lightning chat.
Yeah, and that was so that was after everything that happened, and they were talking, and he was like talking to Jefferson, and he's like, tell me about your family, and he told him about his wife and about his daughters and about where they came from and the fact that he was an educator, and then his powers and stuff. And then Barry talks a bit about himself, and then they both share stories about their dads and about how their dads basically helped shape them. Because like Barry's like, cool. Oh yeah, this happened to, and he's like, that was so hard for me because that guy looked just like my father. And my father, when I was a child, he was arrested, he was put in jail, and he served a 20-year jail sentence, whatever it is, for murdering my mum. And Jefferson looks like as if say, oh my God. And he's like, but he didn't do it. He was framed by one of my biggest enemies. And then, he got free and stuff like that. But eventually I lost him. So I understand losing the people closest to you. And then Jefferson goes on to say about his dad, and he was murdered when I was 12, but I still remember him, and I still remember the lessons he taught me and all this kind of stuff. And then Barry he made a quote from a famous book.
Oh, yes. I can't remember what it was now. Yeah, and he said he was quite impressed
that Barry knew that. Yeah, because obviously because him being a teacher, and he was like, oh, and then he shook his hand and he went, I'm Barry Allen. And he was like, Jefferson Pierce. And they shook hands like, pleased to meet you type thing. Yeah. And it's like, oh, that's nice. That was a nice little bro moment between the two.
That was good. I like that.
The two super powered dudes, the two kind of similar electric in a way. Barry's is like speed electricity and his is like shooty electricity. But there's a sort of similar thing in a way.
We also had the Supergirl and Kate's chat.
Yeah.
Was that when she was still on about the book?
Yes. And then Kate basically was saying about she's looking out for her and she wants to make sure Kara makes the right decisions. And then she shows her the kryptonite.
Kryptonite thing, yeah.
And she's like, why have you got that? What are you doing with that? And she says about that it's the weapon that she said it was Bruce's. And she says that it's a symbol because he lost hope, but I never will. And she wants to give it to Kara because it's in a little container as well. So when it's like safe. Closed, Kara could hold it. And she looks at her, and then it's like a real bonding moment because it's like, no, you keep it because I've got the courage that you'll never need to use it. Yeah. And it's like this real we saw a glimpse of this connection between them during last year's crossover, but just across these 3 episodes, this this friendship that sort of developed really quickly between the two of them is really, really cool. And it's like, I'm really looking forward to seeing how it progresses going forward. So it's like, they've just showcased why they were picked as the Paragons, and that their friendship is going to overcome stuff. So it was like a nice sort of moment. Then we got everybody going together onto the bridge.
Iris brought Dr. Cho.
Yep, and she had a reunion with Barry, and he was like, explained it wasn't me, that I wasn't the Flash that had to go, and that it was about this other version of the Flash and everything. And that they revealed, what had happened, and the thing, they turned it off, it's all been destroyed. And then Black Lightning gets introduced to everybody.
And he was in awe of Superman.
And he was like, wait, Superman? And he's like, wow, this is amazing. And all this kind of stuff. So that was really cool. And then Lila showed up.
Yep. And can't remember what happened to her.
And they're like, where have you been? And she was like, I got taken to I don't know. And she's like, I don't know what happened. I was here and then I was gone. And then it's like, oh, she was like, then she was with him. And then they're all stood around, and then and then Pariah shows up.
Yeah.
And he says about the reason he's there this time is that he's there to witness a tragedy.
Yeah.
And then Lila stood in the middle of everyone around her, suddenly goes a bit weird, and she closes her eyes, and when she reopens them, they're pure white.
Yeah.
And she's been taken over.
Yeah, she took over and took them all down. Knocked them all out.
Yeah.
And then there was a very good fight between Mono and Mono. Hey.
Yeah, Mono a Mono, yes.
Hey. The Anti-Monitor and Monitor.
The Anti-Monitor won.
Yeah.
The Anti-Monitor pushed him to the ground and was like, you're weak, you're pathetic, you can't stand against me. And then the last thing he said was, what was it? He said he said Mobius, and which is clearly must be what the Anti-Monitor's real name is. And then he said, the worst thing I ever did was allow your creation. So it's like, so the Anti-Monitor is a product of the Monitor.
Yeah.
Somehow he was somehow involved in him being created. Yeah. Then obviously they revealed the plan as well, that the Anti-Monitor's plan is to wipe out everything and then basically start afresh and create an antimatter universe.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's what his plan is. That's why he's wiping everything out. And now there's nobody to stop him, because he's like, stop the Monitor, and then he restarts.
He absorbed the Monitors. They absorbed the Monitor into him, didn't they?
Yeah. And then she, because it was obviously in Lyra's body, does something, and then you see outside the ship, and then you see the wave appear again, and it destroys Earth 1.
Yeah, Earth 1.
And that's it. There's nothing left. The whole of the multiverse has been destroyed.
Yeah.
And there's only the Wave Rider. All that's left is the Wave Rider.
Yeah. And the antimatter wave is all. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Pariah must act now. This is because he said he also said to Pariah, didn't he, before the fight with the Monos, he said, what do I do? And he said, you'll know when it's time.
When the time is right. That's right. Yeah.
So after she killed him and the Earth 1 went, he did something, and all the superheroes disappeared, didn't they?
Yeah, they started just blinking out.
Well, the Paragons.
Nowhere. And then you were left with him, the Anti-Monitor / Lila, and a couple of them were left on, like Iris was left on the ship. Superman from like Earth 38, Supergirl Superman, was
Rory,
there. Rory was there. There was a couple of others, and they were like, whatever. He was like, what have you done? And he was like, I've sent them somewhere you can't get them, somewhere outside of your reach. And he's like, you can't do this and all this. And he's like, and they're like, all the others that were left were then like defiant, and they're like, they're going to find a way. They're going to stop you. And you're not going to be able to do anything about it because they are the 7 Paragons and stuff. And he's like, rah, and then he just does something and then basically wipes out everything else that's there.
Yeah. So
everything
I thought, what happened to them? They'd gone as well.
They've all been wiped out. They've all been destroyed.
So then we see the heroes, and they're in a place called the Vanishing Point,
which we last saw in season 1 of Legends of Tomorrow, because that was where the Time Bureau had their base.
That's true. Yes.
It's a point outside of time and space.
Yeah.
So it exists. So the reason it's still there is because it exists separate from time and space. So,
Yeah.
and that's why the Anti-Monitor can't get to them, because it's not
No.
within any reality that he's got access to.
No.
So that's why it was a safe place. But this place is wrecked because obviously the last time the Legends were there, they like destroyed it all.
Yeah, yeah.
And Sarah's like, oh yeah, went to this place. Like, yeah, we did a real number on it the last time we were here.
And then they were all mulling around, they don't know what to do. And then something started happening to Superman, didn't it? That's Ray's Superman, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he was like in pain, wasn't he?
And then he disappeared.
Well, he collapsed to the ground. Kara ran over to him, and then he sort of said that something was wrong. And then, and then there was like a bright light. And then what was at the end of the bright light, Mum?
Lex Luthor.
And he stood up, and they all backed off, and he grinned, and he pulled out his Count of Monte Cristo book, and from within there was a page, and he took the page out, and he said when he had the Book of Destiny, he realized that his destiny should be rewritten. And so he crossed out the symbol that clearly relates to Superman, and he wrote in the words, Lex Luthor.
And I thought, where's Superman? What's he done with him?
Well, he's obviously been wiped out, hasn't he? He obviously swapped places with him, so that means that Superman has been wiped out along with everybody else, and now Lex Luthor is stood there in his place.
He's now the Paragon instead.
Yeah.
I thought, oh.
And that's how it ended.
I know. It's like, no.
So, oh my God. And now we've got to wait like 5 weeks to get the next.
They save everybody.
Yeah.
And bring them all back.
And will they be able to bring everything back? I mean, I think it's a foregone conclusion that they'll be able to bring back a lot of stuff. But I don't know, like, because they said going into this, they said that the fallout from this was going to have major repercussions for all of the shows. So maybe not everything will be able to come. Maybe they won't be able to bring back like Earth 38. Maybe they won't be able to bring back. I mean, God knows what it means if they can't bring back Black Lightnings, because they've only just brought him into it. Yeah. And they've just wiped out. Like, he's still got a show, and they've just wiped all of his Earth and all of his family out.
And especially as they haven't completed their thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they haven't completed. We know that all the shows are coming back. So, but it's just
what I meant is
we don't know.
Storylines in all the others had concluded up to the point.
Apart from Batwoman's.
And apart from his.
Yeah.
As his as well hadn't concluded. So it's like, oh, what does that mean? How are they what's that gonna happen?
But it's just been the most exciting 3 hours of television. It's been so good. It's been the special effects. It's made me laugh, cry, shout out loud, be surprised, be on the edge of my seat, cheering, booing, every emotion I've gone through. And it's like, it's not even over yet.
No.
Like, this is what we've had so far. And the stakes it's the fact that everything is gone.
I know.
I never thought, I could never envisage it getting to that stage where everything got wiped out. I thought, oh yeah, they'll get some, whatever. But it's like, oh my God.
Yep.
It's bonkers.
It is. So can't wait to see what they do with it now.
And the other thing I'm excited about is that that's it for all of the like cameos as well. So all the cameos, the bits and pieces of news that came out that I've been updating you and everybody else on over the last few months, that's all of them. So, but they've said that there's still lots more surprises in store. So God knows what we're going to get in the next 2 episodes.
I know.
I mean, for me and you, I think the biggest thing was the Lucifer thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's going to top that?
I know.
What are they going to do to like trump that moment? Because that was just mind blowing. That was just amazing.
It was brilliant.
Oh my God.
I just can't wait for New Year now.
I know.
Screw Christmas. Let's get into the New Year.
Yeah, we want more Crisis.
But very enjoyable watching and talking. Yeah.
It's been great. It's been so much fun. And yeah, I just hope that you guys enjoyed this. I just hope that you've enjoyed this experience with us, and you've enjoyed all of our going through it and all of our excitement and all the little bits of trivia that I've thrown in along the way and things like that, because it's just been a pleasure to discuss this and something we have been looking forward to. And we even said last week
Yeah.
Just hope now, after all the build-up, that we're not disappointed.
And we haven't been.
No way.
No. Exactly. So
No way have we
yeah.
been disappointed. So, oh my God.
Good way to end the year of the podcasts, I think.
Absolutely. What a way to go out. Just like the multiverse went out with a bang, so are we.
Yeah. And it's been a great year of the podcast. We've had 31 episodes now.
Yeah.
So, and thank you for all of you that have listened and supported it.
Yeah, very much
It's been great.
appreciated. And hopefully you'll come along with us for more exciting adventures in the new year.
The new year. Yeah.
And hopefully when we go into 2020, we'll be starting to put the podcast out there on audio only platforms.
And we've got some good programs coming up in the new year.
Yeah, we've got some good programs coming up. And we've got obviously all these other programs that are going to be returning from their winter breaks.
Yep.
Hopefully there's going to be lots of cool stuff to come, and hopefully you'll be with us, and more people will become aware of us and tune in and enjoy this podcast.
Yeah, it'd be brilliant.
The usual things again, just a reminder from the top of the show, if you did enjoy this, please hit that thumbs up button and leave us a like. It's always greatly appreciated and really helps. Leave your comments down below. I really hope that we get lots of comments. You've got 5 weeks to get this listened to and get some comments in, so I really hope we get lots of good comments.
Sure, you get a few moments over the Christmas break to have 5 minutes to yourself.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of hours to listen to it, probably.
Yeah, it will be a couple of hours. And also subscribe to the channel. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe. Please help us to continue to grow this kingdom of geeks. That would be greatly appreciated. Check out the description box too for the links to my Twitter, my merch shop, my 2 donation mediums, and Green Man Gaming. All of those things, just check them all out. You don't have to, but if you did, that would be amazing. And it really helps the channel out and it helps me out personally. And come back in 2020 for more. And I think would speak for both of us, where I just say I'd like to wish all of you a very happy Christmas.
Yes, indeed. Happy Christmas, everyone.
And a happy New Year.
Yeah, we'll see you in the new year. Or hear us. You'll hear us in the new year.
Yeah. Thank you, Mum. Thank you for joining me again for this exciting episode.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. It's been brilliant.
And we will catch you guys in the next decade. You all take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye. 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 Bye.